Albertson Stadium in Boise to take on Boise State, where Boise State is getting 27 points as far as their favorite goes, and the over-under is 65.5. We'll get into some of the national landscape of what you're expecting to see in the college football weekend ahead, which really started last night, but ultimately continues tonight. You also get Michigan State and Oregon at Autzen in Eugene, and Syracuse at Allegiant in Las Vegas to take on UNLV. Both those games are tonight, and they're on Fox. Fox has kind of started their Friday night college football coverage. How about we stand and clap for Kirk Cousins? How about we stand and applaud our guy Kirk Cousins, who was insane last night and is changing the narrative of the way people view him. Kirk Cousins has 15 go-ahead touchdowns in regulation or overtime since 2020, which is 11 more than any other NFL quarterback. I didn't know that until this morning. So, ultimately he has the biggest comeback in NFL history for a quarterback when he came back from 33 points down. He's thrown for 450 yards in a game for 3 separate teams. We probably should talk about this guy a little bit differently than the narrative that's gone around, because that was an awesome football game. Atlanta took care of Tampa Bay, but it took overtime. It took an incredibly well-managed final drive for Atlanta to send that game into overtime. And Kirk Cousins sends Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay Bucks home with an L. So some exciting NFL football, including over the sea, across the pond, I should say, with our good friends in London at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, where the Jets are going to take on the Vikings. So we'll get into some of that on the show today. Obviously, high speed ahead to opening night for the Utah Hockey Club. Another preseason exhibition match coming up tomorrow against Colorado. It's going to be 5 o'clock Mountain Time. And then the Chicago Blackhawks are in town next week as we officially introduce ourselves to the hockey world as Hockey Town USA. RSL back in action coming up tomorrow, taking on San Jose. San Jose is the worst team in the West. If RSL does not come home with 3 tomorrow, we're going to have a conversation about exactly the way they decided to handle their business, because it has not looked good for quite some time. But we've got a lot to do. We've got a great guest list for you guys on this beautiful Friday afternoon, this October Friday afternoon here in the landscape of Salt Lake City and the surrounding area. Kyle Bonagura will start things off today. Kyle was in town for Utah, Arizona. He covers college football for ESPN. He'll be our first guest right out of the gates. Our old buddy Roxy Bernstein stops by. We'll do some college football with Roxy, but I do want to talk about Porter's Miracle Mets. They did it. It was a great moment last night, man. It was a great moment to see the Mets actually advance. So I'm going to talk to Roxy about some Major League Baseball, then we'll do some college football. Going to bring in Paul Pugmire today to talk a little golf. We are high speed ahead of the PGA Tour, returning to the state of Utah for the first time in 60 years. We'll bring in Paul today. Austin Gale from The Ringer to talk NFL as well. And we have got a lot to do live today at Equipped Expedition Outfitters. It's their open house going from now until 7 o'clock. Come by, grab some food, enter the raffle, and expect to win some pretty incredible prizes if you are an outdoor enthusiast. 1005 Bending River Road, just west of Redwood, approximately 10th south. The best thing to do is put this in your GPS, 1005 Bending River Road. And then just follow it out, come in, say what's up. ESPN 700 van is right out front. You cannot miss us. All right, Kyle Bonagura, Roxy Bernstein, Paul Pugmire, Austin Gale, me, Spence Checketts, all of you, the great listeners. And Mr. Met himself, I got to say, buddy boy, when the game went final and how it went final, I had a big old smile on my face, and I was happy for you. So, look, I've been around this baseball team for a long, long time now, so I'm not going to get off what I've told you as far as careful what you wish for here with these amazing Mets, and more often than not, fall on their face. But when Pete Alonso hit that home run, what was your reaction?
Yeah, man, obviously, the way you win in baseball is always part of the story. And to win, not in a walk-off, but close to it, and do so just days after a similar but also very different situation in an elimination scenario with the Braves, right? It was just a really fun week of being a Mets fan. And yes, it does lead to maybe getting a little excited, maybe getting a little optimistic about October, about the fall, and that's part of the fun of being a fan. But I do know, and I am well aware, regardless of how fun this week has been, how the story usually goes with my Mets.
Well, the great thing about being a sports fan is you always hope for something that you haven't seen yet. And we certainly know about that in this market, maybe more so than any other market with the Jazz and the Utes and RSL. And occasionally, team breaks through. More often than not, our hearts are broken, but you hope for the unknown. The Mets are going to take on the Phillies coming up in the divisional series. All right, our first guest out of the gates today is Kyle Bonagura. But before we get to Kyle, courtesy of our good friends, your good friends too, it's Standard Restaurant Supply. They're your tailgate headquarters, so check them out either online or at their location here in the market on a Friday afternoon. It's time now for your opening tip. So Utah football is on a bye this week. That's not breaking news. You guys know that. But something struck me this morning throughout the course of this week. You know, as I've talked about before, I'm not a big social media guy. Once upon a time I was. I think most people in this business felt once upon a time you kind of had to be super active on Twitter, mainly, in order to kind of maintain your place in this ecosystem and carve out this portion of real estate that's yours. You don't have to. And I certainly came to that realization a number of years ago. But what I do, and I like to do this, is if you're not a troll and if you're not a coward that uses the internet to feel brave and you want to direct message me on either Twitter or Instagram, I do respond to those. And when I talked about that on Monday, in response to a segment I did on Cam Rising, where I'm just kind of over people cracking on this kid, he's just hurt and will play when he's right, I was inundated with direct messages on both my social media channels. I'm not really a Facebook guy, although I have one. I'm staying away from TikTok, that the poisonous stuff over there. But either Twitter or Instagram, you guys can hit me up. And one of the things that struck me, and I think initially surprised me, but then I thought about it, a lot of people kind of souring a little bit on Coach Witt. Talking about how, has Kyle Whittingham reached his ceiling? Can Utah football take the next step when the regime change happens? And it was more than just a few, because one thing I never do is program a show or plan a segment based off of one or two trolls online. I don't give a rip about those conversations, about those debates, about those arguments. It's full of hypocrites. It's full of cowards. And I don't give that any credence. But you'd be surprised how many direct messages are directing their venom towards Kyle Whittingham. And initially, again, when I started digging through some of these DMs, it did catch me off guard, and I was surprised. But then I thought about it, and ultimately this comes down to human nature and what you want from yourself and what you want from the team you cheer for, right? And so there's always this delicate balance. Like, for instance, I was raised not just by a father, but a grandfather who encouraged all of us to do what we could to achieve everything we possibly can. There was a pragmatism to them where they would say to all of us, you are capable, you are talented, we expect you to achieve. And I kind of walk this line in my own life, in my own career, about wanting to continue to achieve and do the best I can in my profession, in my life. And if I'm not doing well in certain areas, trying to change them so I can make progress and really work hard to do those things. And then on the other side of the equation, just being grateful for the things that I have the opportunity to do, and being grateful for this job, and being grateful for the opportunity to chat with you guys every single afternoon, right? And so through that prism, I thought about the stuff with Coach Witt. And I will never stop talking about the program Kyle has built through the prism of somebody who has watched this football team since the 80s and who attended school at the University of Utah in the 90s and have been a media member in this market for nearly 2 decades. It'll be 20 years next year. And am in awe at what Utah football is, what Utah football will continue to be, and certainly wanting the program to do well and wanting the program to continue to strive to achieve and strive to be better day by day. Kyle talks about this, right? And that is really all you can ask for, because ultimately, if you are a young Utah football fan and you look around at maybe a program that you perceive has built its way to very, very good but not great, you are really failing to see the forest through the trees. And I would ask you, what exactly do you want? What exactly do you expect? Because we know the contingency plan in place is Morgan Scalley for Kyle Whittingham, and I don't know when that's going to happen. There are plenty of people that believe that's going to happen this year. I have no frame of reference for that. Nobody has told me that. And I know Kyle, and I know Morgan, and I know people in the program. Certainly, maybe this is it. Maybe Coach Witt looks at the injuries that took place last year, and he goes, what am I supposed to do? And the injuries that have taken place already this year. And as we talked about yesterday, it's not just Cam. It's Karene, it's Connor. We could keep going. I mean, they're missing 6 or 7 of their starting pieces. Now, I know that excuse gets tied, but it's also an explanation, not only an excuse, as to why potentially the start of the season has not been what you're looking for. Just as I said on Monday, and just as I said this week, lay off Cam, he's hurt, he'll play. I'm not really here for the Kyle Whittingham slander as it pertains to the way I've watched him build this program brick by brick. And, of course, Ron McBride, Urban Meyer, and Kyle talks about his mentors, Lavelle Edwards, his father, the original Coach Witt. So, ultimately, he had a foundation. But Kyle has built this program into something that I never thought I would see in my lifetime. And that's somebody who's watched this program from the 80s, attended school there in the 90s, and has now been covering Utah football as a media member for 20 years. Now, having said that, I also understand why human nature is, I've seen this before, and it's the way we cheer for our teams. I was just talking to Porter about the Mets, right? Unbelievable snapshot moment in a vacuum. Alonso goes deep, the Mets win, they advance. But as a Met fan, because you haven't seen anything super special since like 69, you're going to want more. And as a Ute fan, you've seen Mountain West Conference championships, you've seen Pac-12 championships, you've seen Rose Bowl appearances, and so that status quo no longer satisfies your insatiable appetite for something different and better from your football team and depending on how you view life. Right? It's an interesting juxtaposition. You balance, like for me, I can understand both sides of the equation. I mostly look at this thing as Coach Witt building something that I'm in awe of, and also being incredibly opportunistic, or I should say optimistic about what could come next, whether it's Kyle or Morgan. Change doesn't happen overnight. Change takes years, and then boom, it happens all at once. But it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of foundation. And if you're one of those fans right now that's hitting me up in my DMs, and like I said, please do that. If you're not a troll, I'm happy to respond to you. If you're not a coward that wants to feel brave online, we can chat. But more than, I'd say, 10 DMs on either Twitter or Instagram have been about Kyle, which has kind of caught me off guard. So Utes on a bye. They're back at it. Hopefully Arizona played a get-right game after a bye week against Utah. Hopefully Utah can play a get-right game against Arizona State after their bye week. All right, we're live today at Equipped Expedition Outfitters. It's their open house. Again, the address, the best thing to do is put this in your GPS, then just follow it, Google Maps, Waze, or whatever. 1005 Bending River Road. It's just west of Redwood, approximately 10th South. ESPN 700 van is out front. You can have some food in a little bit. We've got a bunch of giveaways. And the owner, Paul May, stops by. Paul, happy Friday, man. How are you?
Happy Friday to you.
This place rules, man.
You like it?
Yeah, it's really cool. And I told you I was kidding with you. When I was driving down here, I'm kind of like, so where am I going exactly? And then boom, I walk in. Yeah, boom, I walk in, and it's incredible. So let's start from a macro viewpoint. What exactly do you want our listeners to know about Equipped Expedition Outfitters?
Well, we've been around for 18 years now. We've been in this location for 2 years. It is a little bit out of the way, but once you walk in the door, it is pretty amazing. Equipped Expedition Outfitters is an outfitter for people that are looking to travel in what we call an overland style, which is, in essence, vehicle-based adventure travel. And that could be anything from enjoying our Wasatch to traveling the world. We sponsor a lot of folks that head clear around the planet with the products we offer. We can set up anybody in any way, shape, or budget that they've got and come up with some good ideas and a lot of wisdom and knowledge from traveling the world.
So one of the things that struck me when you were giving me a tour of the facility is how, you want people to experience the outdoors. You want people to experience camping. This is not some sort of five-star hotel situation in the desert or what have you, but you can really experience the outdoors in kind of like an old school way, yet with some of the comforts of your own home, if that makes sense.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the products that we offer here that would allow you to travel perpetually.
Yeah.
We have a lot of folks that are literally traveling the world with the products we have. It doesn't mean you have to. So we've got rooftop tents and racks and awnings and fridges for the interior vehicle and battery management. All sorts of fun products that just make it a little bit nicer. One thing I have figured out is if you make it nice, the girls will go with.
There you go. And that's a bit, look, we all need the companion, right? We all need the traveling companion. Makes trips that much better.
Yeah.
All right, we have a raffle going on.
Absolutely.
So let's hear about what prizes you're giving away today.
So we actually have 4 raffles going on here. We're giving
sweet.
away about a half a dozen different prizes that range from small to large. We have one raffle today at 4 o'clock, another one at 6:30 today. And then tomorrow our open house is from 9 to 1. We have 2 raffles then as well, one at 11 and one at 12:30. So each one of those raffles will have a half a dozen prizes. So for instance, we've got products from Hest, pillows from Hest, Ignic, fire cans and propane systems. Tonight we're giving away an Easy On rooftop tent worth over $2,000.
Yeah.
And that's our final prize tonight. Tomorrow we have hot water shower systems from Julka, which is about a $500 product that's going to be given away in our second raffle. All in all, I think we're somewhere between $6,000 and $7,000 in prizes that we're going to be raffling off to folks that are here. You have to be here in person, grab one of our raffle tickets and be here, and hopefully you're going to be the winner.
Those are amazing prizes. I wasn't expecting that. You kind of, because the rooftop tents, they're amazing. I know they're a little bit pricey. Last thing here, Paul, you have a bunch of deals for the open house, you savings of certain percentages on certain products. Let's unlock some of those.
So the company called Easy On out of Johannesburg, South Africa, we've got rooftop tents, racks, and awning systems that you can save up to 40% on. We've got some other products that are in our store here, Ignic fire systems, Julka hot water shower systems, Devos lighting. Those are 10 to 25% off. But what we're really sponsoring at this open house is Equipped is Utah's exclusive dealer for Scout campers. The Scout campers are from Washington. They're an awesome camper. We have a couple of our 2024 demo models that are on great discounts right now. We're moving them along because we have brand new 2025 showing up. Plus, a first ever in the state of Utah is the brand new Scout camper Yoho pop-up camper.
All right.
Which is number 3 in production. Never seen in the state. We'd love people to come down and take a look at those. We have up to around $2,500 in incentives for our 2024 models in that aspect.
Awesome. Paul, thanks for stopping by. We'll chat again. All right, come on by. It's Equipped Expedition Outfitters. It's their open house. They're going to have a food truck out here at about 4 o'clock so you can grab some grub. And as Paul just outlined, they've got a bunch of prizes for the raffle. One's at 4 o'clock, one's at 6:30. You have to be present to win those, though. It's 1005 Bending River Road, just west of Redwood, approximately 10th South. Easiest thing to do, pull up Google Maps, put in 1005 Bending River Road, follow it, look for the ESPN 700 van, come on inside and say what's up. All right, coming up on the other side, Kyle Bonagura stops by. College football on the other side. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. Friday afternoon. Kyle, happy Friday, man. How we doing?
Doing all right, Spence.
Appreciate the time. So you came into town for the wrong game, Kyle. It was, and I know Ute fans don't want to talk about it, but you were here. And as you and I discussed last week, I entered Utah, Arizona with tremendous confidence that the Utes could do what Kansas State did to the Wildcats, and that's kind of push them around and win the battle in the trenches. And as Coach Witt himself said on Tuesday for his media availability, it was the exact opposite. What stood out most to you about Arizona's win over Utah last Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I think just the tone was set for Arizona early. I mean, those two stops on fourth down, deep in the red zone, you go from, ideally, 14 points on your first two drives to zero, right? That's demoralizing, and it set the tone. From a physicality standpoint, yeah, I mean, I think everyone thought that Utah would have the advantage there, and for Arizona to get those two stops, and then come up with another third down stop on the third drive to force Utah to kick that field goal. I mean, you were kind of playing. They moved the ball like up into that point, which was encouraging, but then kind of having that seed planted that when it matters to get a yard, you can't do it, or 2 yards or whatever it was. Yeah, that was surprising for sure, especially the way Arizona had been pushed around, not just against Kansas State, but in earlier games too. I mean, it wasn't a team that really had a reputation to play physical. So that certainly jumped out. And then look, Noah Fafita made some plays late in that game, and we knew he was a good quarterback. Did a lot of good things last year, but we really hadn't seen much of his playmaking to start the year for them. So for him to kind of step into that moment, it was like, look, it was going to happen at some point this season, but for it to happen, at Rice Eccles in a close game, for Ute fans, obviously that wasn't the time for that to happen.
And since you referenced Ute fans, I've caught a little flack this week. I don't mean this as a knock on the fans at all, because you have to have good football to cheer for in order to cheer. But I don't know, Kyle. I've been going to that stadium for 30 years, and certainly over the past decade since Coach Witt built this thing up to the juggernaut that it is, it usually is a lot different. The atmosphere just wasn't what we're accustomed to, and I'm not blaming it on one thing or the other. It just felt different. I wonder, since you were here, what you made of Rice Eccles not necessarily sounding like Rice Eccles.
Yeah, I mean, I'd only been to one game there previously, several years ago now at this point. But yeah, it was disappointing because it has this great reputation, the home win streak. The record there obviously speaks for itself in just terms of what the atmosphere does to contribute to that success. But I think it goes back to what I was saying before about just being demoralized early. First, with Rising Knights starting again is the first blow you take before the game starts, right? And so then you have that's been built a source of frustration that's been building, obviously. And then you kind of you have those two stands that is just tough to swallow. Feels like missed opportunities. I will say it did feel like. When they cut it to, 16-10, they had that nice drive where Wilson looked really good. It felt like it was coming alive, and I think on the broadcast they even made reference of that. It felt like, okay, the switch has been turned back on, but as soon as Arizona, answered with that touchdown drive, the wind was completely taken out of the stadium. And then there were people headed to the exits, at that point. I don't know, how much time was left off the top of my head, maybe 8 minutes, something like that, right? And there was people, and I was watching from the press boxes as those aisleways were starting to fill up with people. But it was I kind of understood it from the respect of, it doesn't feel like they're going to be able to now score 2 touchdowns to bring this thing back. And then also, look, it was an 8:00 kick too. So it's at that point, it's really that factors in on some level too. So yeah, disappointing for me to be there and have to not see the best showing for the stadium, but so it goes, I guess.
So you referenced Cam once again, and of course, Kyle, as you can guess around here, folks are beyond frustrated with the whole situation. I mean, for me, he's hurt, and I feel bad for him, and he'll play when he's ready, and he was hurt last year, and he actually came on our radio station last year after he was taking a tremendous amount of heat because the program was not just not forthcoming, just clandestine and dishonest, quite frankly, gamesmanship, competitive advantage, whatever. But every week it's like, yeah, he's making progress maybe this week. And then Cam came on the station and was like, you guys need to understand my knee exploded. I'm paraphrasing. He didn't say that. This was not a torn meniscus. I mean, Chris Camerati from The Athletic interviewed Dr. Neil Atrash, and Dr. Atrash talked about just how horrible that injury was. And so I think people kind of laid off him, but now we're sitting here 3 weeks out of what has been characterized as a hand injury, laceration, dislocation. We're not entirely sure because the program continues to keep that information to themselves. While you were out here, did you talk to anybody about how they're handling this, and what do you make of where we're at once again another year with QB1 Cam Rising?
Yeah, I didn't get into it about how they're handling it because I think it's like, honestly, I think it's like pretty straightforward. Like they don't have to release injury information, so they don't have to. And like, look, I think we talked about it last week too. Is it probably should just be required at this point that programs release injury reports. And look, that all of this goes away. Look, it's fine in the NFL. It's working out fine in the SEC so far. It just takes that element out of it and just creates a level playing field. Because I think that's the point, right? Is that some schools are fine talking about injuries. Other schools see it as an opportunity for to gain a small competitive advantage, and so they're gonna keep doing that. Obviously, that's how Kyle feels, and so he's got he has the right to operate that way. But I think like the other element that's different nowadays, right, than it would have been, however many years ago, 5-10 years ago with college football is that like the kids are getting paid, right? Look, Cam is making a lot of money from his NIL deals to be the quarterback for Utah. And I think that it's like, look, if we're being honest, it's professional sports at this point, right? You're getting paid money with the expectation that you're going to play football. And so I think it opens up more like legit reasons for frustration or criticism about how it's all being handled, right? And so that probably factors in on some level as well, that it's not just like some kid who's like on a scholarship, going to class. It's like this is a guy who's making real money to do this, and so I think it's a little bit more fair to kind of wonder what's going on here. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm with you. I know I'm with you that look, he's hurt and he wants to play, and if he could play, he would play. There's no reason to believe that it's anything other than as something as simple as that. But this is just the world we live in with the way the injury report situation is regulated or not regulated.
And I guess we live in the modern day and age of everything has to be a conspiracy theory. I mean, there is a faction of the fan base that for whatever reason is pretty outspoken about their belief that Cam should man up. I've even heard media members say he should man up and just play because football players, historically speaking, have played hurt. But when I hear the faction of the fan base that is spinning this as if he could play but he's not and saving himself for pro football, I'm like, you must listen to Rogan podcasts. You must get your medical advice from somebody whose job it was 5 years ago to tell people on TV to eat, animal feces. Like, I don't know what to make of the conspiracy theory side of this, or maybe that's just how it is now.
Yeah, and I think you're spot on. But I think it's also important to show how idiotic it would be, like the idea that he's saving himself for the NFL. Because, look, Cam Rising never been a surefire NFL prospect, right? Right. He's always been a tweener guy, maybe a guy who could get a look. But this was not a first-round pick at any point, even when he was the winning conference, first team all-conference. Cam Rising, especially after the injury season, needed this season to prove to the NFL that he was either worth a draft pick or worth a chance to play his way onto the team with a free agent signing.
Good point.
If he doesn't play, then you're going to have 2 years without football. You're going to have a whole career in which it's been colored by injury concerns. Like, if anything, this is hurting his NFL prospects and his ability to make, millions of dollars in professional football. Then it would be helping him by sitting out. So, like, it's easy to dismiss those thoughts as just complete hogwash from the jump.
Yeah, good point. All right, give me your impression, because I continue to say the same thing, and I will repeat it, but it's not as ringing of an endorsement as it was a couple of weeks ago. I mean, look, Oklahoma State just might be bad, but Isaac Wilson became the first true freshman in school history to go on the road and beat a ranked team. And so I maintain that Isaac is a better backup option than either Nate or Bryson were a year ago. But he's still 18. He just enrolled in April. He's barely grasping a very nuanced, complex playbook from Andy Ludwig. So I still think it looks better than it did a year ago, but I don't know that it's good enough for this team to traverse forward without Cameron and compete for conference. So tell me what your impressions were after watching the QB2, Isaac Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, it's for a true freshman, I think he's playing pretty well. But the thing is, like, he shouldn't be on the field. He should be, in a perfect world, he'd be redshirting this year and would maybe get some playing time in the 4 games, and you help bring him along, and that would have been that. It's, during training camp, there certainly wasn't an expectation that they were going to, need him to play in a meaningful way, right? And so I think for me, just kind of evaluating him, it's just inconsistent, right? There's been times where he steps into the throw and looks like he's going to be a really good player. I mean, he obviously, won a couple starts, did enough to help the team win. It wasn't because of him, but he certainly didn't do anything to hurt their chances, right? And then look, he ran into an Arizona team that made some big plays. He moved the ball pretty well between the 20s, at least at the start of the game. We kind of touched on that earlier, and I think, watching that game, I really felt like Micah Bernard was underused early. I mean, on those 2 4th down, it's easy to criticize after the fact on a singular play call, but for both of those 4th downs, 4th and 1, 4th and 2, and Bernard doesn't touch it on either of them. That was a little puzzling for me, considering just how consistent he's been all year. And so, I expect them to kind of try to lean back into him. They got the bye week this week, but certainly next week. But yeah, it's kind of unfair to him to be in a spot where he's being called upon to come back late in the game against a ranked team. That's just not realistic for him to make those plays.
So before we move on from the Utes, you referenced the bye week. Then next Friday night in Tempe, an 8:30 Mountain Time kick. They do find themselves against Arizona State and Kenny Dillingham, coming off a loss at Texas Tech. And this conference is so weird. Maybe Texas Tech is awesome. I don't know anymore. They take on Kansas, Arizona State does, coming up tomorrow, and then it's the Utes coming up next Friday. Do you anticipate Arizona, we had their play-by-play voice, Brian Jeffries, on the show. He said they're hoping for a get-right game against Utah after a bye week, and they got it. They got the get-right game. Can Utah get that get-right game in Tempe next Friday night?
Yeah, Arizona State has made a lot of progress this offseason. Dillingham's a really sharp guy. I think they'll continue kind of on this trajectory in the right direction. But look, I still think there's enough of a gap there to me to be, expect Utah to win. I don't think you would. I'm as confident about that happening as it would have been 2 weeks ago, right? Especially with the quarterback stuff. But yeah, this is not going to be a gimme like it would have been last year against Arizona State. Especially going there Friday night, things could get weird. But certainly excited to kind of see, another old Pac-12 opponent for the Utes to start conference play in the Big 12.
All right, Kyle, since you and I last spoke, I saw your tweet first and read your story first that Gonzaga is headed to the Pac-12 for the 2026 season. There's still work left to be done. They still need, more help on the football side of things, but what should our listeners know about how this all went down, what it means for the Pac-12, and what's next for the Pac?
Yeah, so it's the conversations with Gonzaga had been going on for a while, several weeks at a minimum, probably informally. It probably predated that. And so I think in a perfect world, what the Pac-12 would have done is been able to have filled out the football lineup and then added Gonzaga after that when they had a kind of a better sense of what the media rights deal was probably going to be worth. But when they missed on the AAC schools, they missed on UNLV, which would have got them to 8, which would have been the kind of the magic number for football. Then they would have added Gonzaga. But when you kind of whiffed on all of that, they're like, all right, we still need to kind of have a win here. And I think that Gonzaga as a brand in college sports is recognizable nationwide. It's a PR win for the conference. It doesn't really change a whole lot, right? Media deals in college sports are 100% or 95% run on football. Gonzaga does not have football, as most people probably are aware. And so it doesn't change the overall strategy so much because they still do need to add at least one more football team. I think they'll probably end up trying to add more. And so I think what you'll see happen now, I know that what you'll see happen now is the conference will enter into some meaningful conversation with potential media partners about what different combinations would look like for football, right? And I think one of the issues they ran into with the conversations with the AAC is that they just didn't know with like a high degree of certainty, like how much the media package was going to be worth. But I think what you'll see is they'll go to those potential media partners, kind of negotiate different packages with different like combinations of teams. That way they have something real to go back to the AAC with and say, look, we've talked to, fill in the blank media partner. And if you guys sign on the dotted line, they will be willing to pay us this much, which will mean, this much, call it $12 million for your program over this many years, right? And so that'll allow them to have real conversations instead of the projections with those schools. And then those schools can either decide take it or leave it, or the Pac-12 could figure out how to kind of evolve, like kind of go from there. But I think that's how this is going to play out for the next couple of weeks. I definitely don't expect any new additions until they have some real meaningful data there.
Kyle, good stuff, man. Appreciate the time today. Have a great weekend, and we'll get you back on again soon. Thanks, man.
All right, thanks, man.
Kyle Bonagura, at Bonagura ESPN is where you find him on social media. Brought to you today by Big O Tires. Save $120 on a set of 4 in-stock tires, not just any tires. $120 off a set of the legendary Big O brand tires, like the Bigfoot AT or Legacy tire lines. During the fall sale, that goes until October the 13th, so you better stop in. One-stop shop for automated repair, free tire rotations, flat repairs, air and alignment checks, and more. Financing options to keep your vehicle in tip-top shape. Over 50 locally owned and operated locations in Utah. Visit BigOTires.com to schedule an appointment or find a location near you. All right, live today, Equipped Expedition Outfitters. It's their open house. It goes until 7 o'clock tonight. Food's going to be here in about an hour, so come by and grab some food and then check out other great deals. And my guy Paul May stops by once again. Paul, how are you, man?
Doing great. Thanks.
Appreciate your time. Beautiful spot, as we talked about. Was not aware you exist. I know now. We need the listeners to know now.
We are here.
You are here, and it's awesome. So, again, I'll ask you just overview. This is your wheelhouse. What do you want our listeners to know about Equipped Expedition Outfitters?
Well, Equip's been around for 18 years now. We believe we're one of the preeminent overlanding and expedition outfitters in the country, not only in Utah. We have 4 brands that we import from South Africa and from Europe. We bring those products to the United States and we distribute across the country. That has a national presence. But what we would like people to know is that we are here local. I'm a Utah boy, grew up in Bountiful.
There you go.
Utah. Go Utes guy. Too many degrees from that institution.
Gotta love it.
I'm a local boy, but I've had a chance to travel the planet, and I found what I believe are the best products for this style of travel, which is just an elevated way to make your adventure travels more comfortable. And that's why we're here.
And you'll take care of everybody from beginners to, like, if you think you're an expert, you should roll in here because you can even help, like, the people that think they're the best at this stuff. You can always get better.
Absolutely, and that's what we really believe that we can specialize with is the experience and knowledge to help anybody with any budget, regardless of what their goal is.
Sure.
If it's rolling up into the Wasatch Range, awesome. If it's headed to Argentina, awesome. We can help you in any of those directions. And whatever your adventure travel might be, it might be mountain biking, it could be hunting, fishing, whatever it is, whatever you want to make a little bit more special, a little bit more comfortable, and a little bit more knowledgeable, that's why we're here.
And I think most everybody, I know I can relate to the desire to kind of get off the grid a little bit, the desire to escape. If you don't love work, if, your relationship is failing, like you just want to get away.
Sure.
But you don't know how, right?
Right.
Like for people that have the idea in their mind of just taking a little time off the grid, you can teach them how step by step if they just walk in and ask you questions, yeah?
Then that's exactly it, is that we can help anybody that's thinking about it for the first time, about going out and seeing what a beautiful state we live in. I've spent the last 45 years wandering Utah, southern Utah, and know a lot about that area, and I haven't seen everything yet.
Sure.
But even if you want to roll down to Moab for a day or two, or head for Argentina or Europe or Alaska, whatever that might be, we can help with those steps and give you some insight and ideas. It's not a matter of having everything you need in the world before you go, but if you have a little bit more between your ears, you're going to be okay, whatever that budget might be.
For sure. Paul, one thing I know after doing this job for about 2 decades is people love free stuff. You got raffles going
Yes,
on
we do.
today and tomorrow, so let's hear
Absolutely.
about those.
So we've got 4 raffles going on. We have 2 today and 2 tomorrow. We've got a raffle at 4 o'clock and a raffle at 6:30 today. Each of the raffles, we're going to be raffling off about a half a dozen products, and they're going to range anywhere from $100 and on up. In our 6:30 raffle, we're raffling off an Easy-On rooftop tent from South Africa. A couple $1,000 tent. Absolutely wonderful expedition grade tent. Plus, tomorrow we have 2 raffles at 11 o'clock and 12:30, and giving away a lot of wonderful prizes. Hot water shower systems, portable fireplaces, all sorts of wonderful products. And it's just free for coming down. Come down, grab a raffle ticket, stick around for some sliders from Black Sheep Bar and Grill that are helping us out with the event this evening. Grab some food, grab a good time, grab some insight, some inspiration, and hopefully a prize.
I'm going to let you give out the accurate address to make sure people know how to get here. What is it?
Sure. The actual address is 1005 Bending River Road, and that is at about 10th South and 19th West here in Salt Lake City, just west of Redwood, a couple blocks.
Right on.
About 10th South.
The best thing to do is put that in your GPS, and if you don't think you're going in the right direction, you are. Just keep going. Look for the ESPN 700 van, and come on in. Paul, good to see you, my friend.
Great seeing you. Thank you.
All right. Equipped Expedition Outfitters, it's their open house. Open right now until 7 o'clock tonight, and then tomorrow they open up at 9 again. They go to 1 p.m. So 1005 Bending River Road. As Paul just referenced, about 10th South, 19th West. Put it in the GPS. Follow your GPS down. Look for the ESPN 700 van. Come on in and say what's up. And, great deals, and we've got a couple of raffles. We got food about 4 o'clock, so we'd love to see you on this beautiful Friday afternoon. All right, 1 hour down, 3 hours to go. Roxy Bernstein is our guest. Coming up next, more college football, a little baseball, too, on ESPN 700. nights this week, no football. So I decided to fire out some friends. I mean, this old school, give the stall check. Not know how to be that good fast. Maybe one for the shots. I don't need it. And or that's why the deal over there. Let's get join that steps. Football, talk with baseball, whatever comes my way. My guy got some. Happy Friday, sir. How are you?
Spence, that's never going to get old. It's really not.
I can't stop the bit, Roxy. I can't stop the bit. I never will.
We got to keep the bit going. Come on. Yeah. I'm with you on that 100%.
Now, for our new listeners, I say this every time Roxy joins us. Roxy, the cliche one of one is overused. What makes Roxy Bernstein one of one? Several things. Namely, he is a phenomenal broadcaster. He does a tremendous job on whatever he does, football, baseball, basketball. But he also has a continuing beef with Courtney Cox because he's friends with the lead singer of Counting Crows, and she broke his heart. We have new listeners, Roxy. I just have to remind them of the deal.
Spence, Bill Walton was clearly one of one. And I just happen to be one of probably a few. You know, there's a few of Adam's close friends, and we all probably have a general distaste for Courtney. So I can't be just one of one in that regard.
How is my guy Adam Duritz these days? How's he doing?
He's good.
Good.
They just finished up tour. He's all pumped because the Golden Bears, for the first time, College Game Day will broadcast from Berkeley tomorrow. In the history of that program, they have never had Lee Corso put on Oski's head or the other mascot. Tomorrow it's Sebastian the Ibis as Miami's in town to play Cal. But the first time College Game Day will broadcast from Berkeley. I hope whoever holds the bleep button with Marshawn Lynch being the guest picker is ready to go when that show comes to a conclusion around 9 o'clock Pacific, 10 Mountain Time tomorrow, because I think that button might get used a few times tomorrow.
Well said. And, you know, you didn't see my notes today, but you stole my first question because as a proud alum, I mean, it has to be pretty cool. And you know what? I haven't seen a ton of them, but I think they're a little bit improved based off of the chaos that program's had to deal with. I mean, I still chuckle when I say Cal out of the ACC, but with game day in town, in Berkeley, and a really good Miami team rolling in, the spread is 10, which is sizable. Do you think they'll be motivated to make this thing interesting? You think they've got a shot at the upset?
Oh, yeah, I do. They're at home, and Spence, they're a really good defensive team. They have some shortcomings offensively. I have some concern about Cal's offensive line. I like the quarterback. I think Fernando Mendoza has grown, and now is a redshirt sophomore, is comfortable in the offense. They were 3-0 going into that game against Florida State and lost a tough one on the road, a game they should have won. But, you know, the kicker misses a couple of chip shot field goals and you don't score an offensive touchdown and you lose a 13-9 game, it makes it frustrating. But they went on the road. They won at Auburn. They have tied for the most interceptions in the country defensively. So it's going to be an inspiring performance. They're going to be ready. There's a lot of hype and buzz around this, and Cal's got an opportunity to make a name for themselves on a national stage with a good showing on game day, and if the team can follow it up Saturday night against the U.
All right, Roxy, let's move over to the University of Utah. Before we talk about any game specifically or what comes next, you will not be – well, you follow the news cycle. You follow the program. We're former Pac-12 buddies, so you know that for the second straight year we're dealing with a lot of unknown, a lot of ambiguity about the quarterback under center Cameron Rising. But where I want to start with you is, you know, in the NFL, in the SEC, in the Big Ten, you got to report injuries. And Steve Sarkisian was asked about this dynamic, and he gave a very articulate answer, but ultimately he said the report is a good thing so that everyone's clear of why we do this report. It's so that we can minimize the leaks in our building. From a gambling perspective, nobody wants to know the truth, right? Everybody's trying to figure out who's playing and who's not. And then if you don't report, everybody wants to call your student trainers and student managers and ask who's practiced, who didn't do all these things. And then Dennis Dodd also quoted a gentleman who has been hired by all P4 conferences. His name is Matt Holt, who is known as the founder of U.S. Integrity in Las Vegas, which doesn't sound like a thing, but it is. And he talks about how he advises the colleges to report injuries because if you don't, you're putting your student athletes, your trainers, everybody at risk in the program because those guys in the desert, as we all know, will do whatever they can to get information. So Coach Witt is under no obligation to report. He believes it's a competitive advantage. Some people would disagree with that, but Kyle's job is to win games, not tell you or me who's going to play quarterback. Do you think we should just make it mandatory for every school to report injuries to avoid the kind of the chaos we find ourselves here in Salt Lake City?
I think there should be a universal policy, not just, okay, this league Spence does it or that league does it, especially among the Power Four conferences. I think there should be some unity between those leagues, that they all do the same thing. And it's not just for injuries, but across the board. They play the same number of conference games. I think everything should be even as far as those power conferences go, and that includes disclosing injuries. And look, how you saw Kyle Whittingham last year, and even dealing with it this year. How sick and tired was he of answering the question about Cam Rising? Is he playing? Is he not playing? Who's going to play quarterback for you on Saturday? And it to the point where I think it became a nuisance and a distraction. I think it can help alleviate some of those issues which you alluded to, that it's all out in the open and people know exactly. And I'll full disclosure, he was upfront and honest with us. He trusted our crew last year when everybody was speculating, is Cam playing? Is he coming back? Who's going to be the quarterback? Is it going to be Barnes? And he was upfront and honest with us, and there was a level of trust. But there's very few people that are in that circle of trust. And I get the paranoia that coaches have, because my sister's married to a Division I head basketball coach. So I get it from their perspective, and you keep the opponent guessing because they have to prepare not only for, okay, they're not sure if Cam's going to play, but Wilson, whoever plays quarterback when they go up against Utah. So a preparation standpoint, it could give you a competitive advantage, but I would like to see it level across the board and all the power conferences do the same thing.
Yeah, well said. And, there is a portion of the community that's really down on Cameron, which I'm not with. I'm not here for that. I mean, he's hurt. And when he's healthy, he will play. And the knee injury last year was way worse than anybody knew because nobody reported it until a writer from The Athletic, friend of the show, Chris Kamrani, interviewed Dr. Neil Trash. And then Cam came on Bill's show last year, and I felt for him. I mean, he sounded emotional, and he actually went into detail. I think people thought he may have, sprained his MCL. His knee exploded. And the piece that Kamrani wrote, he had access to Cam and Cam's family. You could tell it really affected him. He said he didn't want to leave the house. His DoorDash bill was rising and a lot of dark days. And the deal with these young football players, Roxy, I mean, it's like the old John Calipari quote when he was asked, how many NBA players do you have in your locker room? He said, I have 12. Go ask them. They all think they're going. These young people, football is like their identity. It's what they know. I don't know if Cam's an NFL guy. And Coach Witt, every time he's asked about this, and a reporter will reference the criticism Cam is taking, Kyle will say, well, I'm not on social media. I don't see any of that. Well, guess who is? His 25-year-old quarterback. And he obviously sees it, and he obviously is affected by it. Do you think that dynamic should kind of change and shift the paradigm as far as how they're handling it? Because it feels like Cam is taking a lot of unnecessary heat, Roxy.
It's unfair to criticize him. His body is letting him down. It's not that he doesn't want to play. He physically can't. And so how can you take shots at a kid for trying to do whatever he can to get healthy, to get back out there on the field, but his body won't cooperate with that? And look, we all deal with physical ailments in life, and especially as we get older, and there's nothing we can do about it. We do our best to prepare our bodies for life, and he's trying to prepare his body to play football, and his body's not cooperating right now, and it's brutally unfair to take a shot at him. Do you think that anybody wants to play more than Cam Rising does? Absolutely not. He wants to be out there in the worst way, but he can't be. And I just don't understand the logic from people that they take shots and want to criticize a kid when he physically can't go out there and do it, because nobody wants to play. Nobody wants to see Cam Rising on Rice-Eccles Stadium's field than Cam Rising. Guarantee you that 100%, and nobody can convince me otherwise.
For sure, Roxy. And Kyle Bonagura joined us earlier and made a really good point, because one of this – and look, I'm not the radio host that sees one tweet and creates a topic. I mean, this is a real thing, okay? there's a portion of the community that feels like Cam is just saving himself for the NFL. But as Kyle said earlier, Cam didn't play a snap last year, so he needs tape this year to give to NFL teams to show that he's right. I don't know if he's an NFL quarterback, but the notion that he's saving himself for pro football when he badly needs tape to show the decision makers in pro football that he can still play might be the most ludicrous thing I've seen so far.
It's asinine to think that is a reality. He's at this point with the injury that kept him out all last year, Spence, and now I'm dealing with an injury this year. I think that he's got to prove to the GMs he can get on the field and he can play. That's what they want to see. He's already got the production. They know he's a strong quarterback and a great leader. Right now, it's just a question about his durability. And I think Michael Penix went through that at Washington, to be honest with you. He's an older quarterback when he came out last year, just like Cam's an older quarterback. But the knock on him was he couldn't stay healthy. And they had to see him complete seasons. And he did it the last 2 years. And that's, I think, what Cam has to do, to be honest with you, in the eyes of the NFL. They need to know that he can get out there physically and do it. And, you know, what's that old line about a professional athlete? What's their best ability? Availability. And I think at this point, that's what the teams want to see in the NFL is can Cam Rising get back out on the field?
Last thing on this, then we'll move off it, because honestly it's exhausting, but it really is the one thing that everybody asks me every time I show up at a buddy's house or whatever. Everyone wants to know what he's playing because, of course, there's so much at stake. This is a good team. They could go to the CFP, and potentially with Cam under center for the second straight year, we'll be looking back and talking about, what could have been or what ifs or what have you. So I get it, but I wonder, because there is part of me that understands the frustration about the messaging where every week, and look, all due respect, Coach Witt said earlier in the schedule, we are not doing this for gamesmanship. But, Roxy, they kind of did last year. Every week when behind the scenes it was known that there's no way he's playing, it was maybe game time, week in, week out, we'll see. And then sometimes he would dress. Then he wouldn't play. So they did utilize it to use a message where they thought they were getting an advantage last year. Is it an advantage? That's a legitimate debate. But I do think there's some credence to the folks around here that are just kind of tired of the whole, all right, week to week, game time decision. Again, I'm not criticizing Cam, and I'm not criticizing Kyle. His job's to win football games. If Kyle Whittingham, the head coach, believes that by not reporting injuries, he gets a competitive advantage, that's well within the scope of his responsibilities. But do you believe there's any credence at all to the portion of Ute fans around here that seem just to be over the whole thing with the way the messaging has kind of gone down?
Yeah, I get it from the Utah fan perspective because you're so invested in the program and you want to see the best players on the field. And so from that standpoint, they've been, he came back, started, and got hurt again. And it's now a year and a half, 2 years that this speculation has gone on. And until he returns to the field, unfortunately, I think you're going to have this topic front and center, and you're going to have to deal with it, Spence, and OC is going to have to deal with it on his show. But that's unfortunately the nature of the beast, and we all know who's the most popular player. It's the quarterback, and that's what people want to talk about, and it won't change in the NFL, right? Right now, the questions around the Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa and his future. He's the quarterback, and that just happens to be the sexy topic for people. And I get the apathy and the frustration from fans, but at the end of the day, that's what they pay attention to more than anything.
Yeah, no, well said. All right, so let's move over to where we find ourselves now as Arizona rolled into Rice-Eccles last Saturday. And, Roxy, you've been to Rice-Eccles. You've called a game at Rice-Eccles, and I can tell you, as somebody who's been going to games there since the 80s, went to school there in the 90s, and has been covering them as a media member for basically 2 decades in the market, that was as surreal of a night as maybe I've seen in a while. Now, it's been a little bit misconstrued that I'm knocking on fans. I'm not. Ultimately, you need good football to cheer for. But Arizona beat Utah in the trenches. Coach Witt talked about that himself on Tuesday, which I did not see coming. Noah Fafita is awesome when you see him up close. And I just think the fans were left wanting because there was not a lot of noise. Certainly, the muss is the muss, no matter what, right? But ultimately, it was just kind of an odd night. But what do you make of Arizona rolling into town on Saturday and taking care of Utah relatively easily?
They're a good football team.
Yes, they are.
They've got talent, as you talked about it, and it's not just Fafita. But you look at McMillan, and you mentioned their offensive line and defensive line play, and that was an angry team that they were getting in that game. And Brent Brennan had his team ready to go as they were coming off sitting around for 2 weeks after they got it handed to them at Kansas State. And we hadn't really seen Arizona clicking yet, right? They put up 61 points in their opening game or however many they scored against New Mexico. Then they didn't play well, but won against Northern Arizona in week 2, and then they go get it handed to them in the Little Apple in Manhattan. So now you're 2-1, you're frustrated, you've been sitting on that game of getting pounded by Kansas State for 2 weeks. You catch a break because Utah's without their quarterback, but Brent had his guys ready to go, and this is a place that they knew was not going to be easy to come in and win. They had a great game plan, I thought, and they capitalized on some of the ineffectiveness of the Utah offense in that game because at times Utah had real difficulty moving the football. And Arizona's a good football team. Okay, Utah probably, when at full strength, is the best team in the Big 12, but they weren't at full strength, and Arizona basically was. And Arizona had an advantage in that regard, and they took advantage of it. They were able to run the football against Utah. They were effective in the passing game. They were able to generate some opportunities defensively and really put Wilson off balance and frustrate them. Arizona was the better team on that night. Do I think Arizona's the better football team overall? Probably not. But they were on that night, and they took advantage of the situation.
All right, Roxy, last thing before I set you loose, and I'm doing this for my producer who is a lifelong suffering Mets fan, and I told him, don't do the Mets thing. I mean, I'm a Yankee fan. I'm a Northeast boy, and I know I have several Met fans. I'm like, don't do the Met thing. Okay, don't do the Met thing where you get excited, then they let you down. But I got to say, what a moment. Alonso, who's struggled for a couple of months, goes deep. They win. They advance. Do they have, for Porter, do they have a puncher's chance against the Phillies?
I think they do. I think there's an advantage that both the Mets and the Padres, for example, have, and that's the series I'll have starting tomorrow night is the Padres and Dodgers down in L.A. But when you have a team that's already in playoff mode, and the Mets have really been in playoff mode for a few months now. It's not like, okay, they just kind of back into the playoffs. They've been having to win baseball games for a while. They got off to a bad start and a miraculous run that, oddly enough, coincided with Grimace throwing out a first pitch at Citi Field. And ever since then, the Mets have taken off. And last night, down 2-0 in the ninth, and Pete Alonso and all the speculation, Spence, about his future. He's going to be a free agent after the year. Does that, at bat, change the whole dynamic for Pete Alonso and the Mets going forward? Like, how do you let him go now after the biggest moment of his career? He comes up with a home run in the ninth inning of a winner-take-all Game 3 against one of the lights-out closers in the game, and he lifts the Mets into the division series against the hated rival Phillies. Yeah, they have a puncher's chance, and they're a hot team. And Lindor is an MVP candidate. He's not going to win it because his name's not Ohtani. But this is a team that's hard to beat. And you got a confident group that's riding a wave of momentum, and it's hard to get it restarted. I saw it with the Dodgers last year in the division series when they were swept by the Diamondbacks. You've been sitting for a week, essentially. They've been playing. The Phillies have kind of eased into it. I think the Mets had you up a puncher's chance, and to be honest with you, I think the Padres should be the favorite to beat the Dodgers in the other series, even though the Dodgers are the number 1 seed in the National League.
Wow. All right, man. Well, you've done it. Now Porter's going to do the Met thing even more, and I'm going to deal with a sad
Porter.
producer at some point. No, all good.
Actually, I should apologize.
Thank you.
No, all good, my friend. Hey, always appreciate the time. It's always a pleasure. Hope you're well. We'll chat soon, okay?
Anytime, Spence. Love talking to you. Take care. Have a good weekend.
The great Roxy Bernstein. He is on Twitter. Get him on Twitter. Just his name. It's at Roxy Bernstein. Formerly the Pac-12 Network. Now he's calling baseball on ESPN. My man's a real talent, so check him out. Speaking of real talent, Paul May, the owner of Equipped Expedition Outfitters, joins us. Paul, happy Friday, sir. How are you?
Happy Friday, thanks.
It is your open house, okay?
Yes, it is.
So we want people to, know you exist, all right? So let's start out with, give us the exact address so people can find where we're at.
The address is 1005 Bending River Road, and that's at about 19th West and 10th South. We're in a big sage green building. We've got the ESPN van out front, and if you start looking at you're seeing all the vehicles with crap bolted all over it, that's us.
There you go. So come on out and say hello. It is their open house. We've got a little food coming in a little bit. Let's start from a macro standpoint, what you want people to know about Equipped Expedition Outfitters.
So Equipped is an overland and expedition outfitting store. We've got all sorts of great equipment for you if you're looking to travel, not only local but further yonder, wherever that might be. We've got rooftop tents, rack systems, refrigerators, the storage, all sorts of incredible equipment, including a couple brands that we're exclusive here in Utah for. One is Scout Campers, a company out of Yakima, Washington. Awesome slide-in campers there, and another company called AT Overland. They build toppers and flatbed campers, and they're out of Prescott, Arizona. And we're exclusive in Utah for those two brands. Very
nice. So, as I referenced last segment, people love two things. One is free stuff. We'll get there. The other is a discount on great gear. So you have sales going on now. Let's outline some of those.
Absolutely. We've got a lot of wonderful deals going on right now. We've got a company that we import from South Africa called Easyon. We have their rooftop tents. Some of their rooftop tents are on up to 40% off. We have rack systems for your vehicle and awnings, 15 to 20% off in those categories. We also have a lot of brands that are here in the United States. So, for instance, a company called Ignic, they make portable propane carriers and portable fire pits. With all the burn bans that are going on out there, having a fire is harder and harder. They've got a great solution for that. We have those on sale here for our show event specifically today and tomorrow. Another company called Devo Lighting out of Utah County. Wonderful camp lighting company. Another company called Julka that makes a portable hot water shower system. All of those, we have them on anywhere from 10 to 25% off for the show at this time. Plus a lot of other things. Scout Campers, we have up to about $2,500 in incentives for our 2024 closeout models for the year.
Very nice. Now, finally, raffles, okay? And you're giving away really good gear. When Kurt told me there were raffles, I thought, okay, maybe you're going to give away a sticker or something. But you're giving away real gear both today and tomorrow. Let's hear about those.
That's correct. We've got 4 raffles going on, 2 of them today at 4 o'clock and at 6:30. We have another 2 raffles tomorrow at 11 o'clock and 12:30. And in those raffles, each raffle will have about a half a dozen prizes, and they'll range anywhere from $100 up to $2,500, depending on the raffle and the prize. But lots of great things. We're giving away a soft shell rooftop tent, a shower system, a couple of the fire pits that I talked about, and some wonderful prizes. So please come by. All you have to do is walk up and ask for a ticket, and we'll get you involved.
Hit us with that address one more time, Paul.
It's 1005 Bending River Road here in Salt Lake City, just west of Redwood Road, about 10 south.
All right, my friend, we'll chat in a bit, okay?
Thanks for your time.
Come on by and say hello. Before we catch a break, we're going to bring in Paul Pugmire coming up on the other side. I want to tell you about my friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. Now, it's legal in Utah, which is important because, you know, we are in Utah. All right, so sign up today. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win you don't even need to win the bet to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Now, the way to get that is to download the Prize Picks app today and use the promo code ESPN700 to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. So again, download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code ESPN700 to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game all season long. All right, we got Paul Pugmire coming up next, talk a little golf. Black Desert Championship is on its way to St. George. Austin Gale will stop by to do some NFL, and we'll go from there on a Friday. Happy Friday to you. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. Austin Gale will stop by coming up in the 4 o'clock hour to talk some NFL football. What a Thursday night game. My goodness. As Kirk Cousins continues to change the narrative about who he is as a quarterback. But we are high speed ahead of the PGA Tour, returning to the state of Utah for more than 60 years. Our next guest knows a thing or two about the game of golf. Paul Pugmire on a Friday afternoon. Paul, happy Friday, sir. How are you?
Doing great, Spence. Hope you are too.
Where do we find you? Like Augusta, Scotland? Like, where are you today?
I'm actually back in the office doing like real day job work.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So, Paul, as we count down to this incredible event that is right around the corner, what are the emotions, not just for you, but the golf community? You have a pulse on the golf community in a way that nobody really does. I would imagine it's excitement, anticipation. How would you describe the way folks are looking forward to this event coming up, the Black Desert Championship?
All of that for sure. And then one other thing I've really noticed is that it is just everywhere on people's minds. It's ubiquitous. It's the focus. It comes up in conversations at kind of odd times. We'll be talking about something else, and then Black Desert will come into the conversation because it's just on people's minds.
So I'm going to keep asking you this until we figure it out. Are we closer and closer to understanding what the field is going to look like?
Yeah, so we are. Players have now. It's next week, so now we're getting into the cutoff. It's actually tonight for the players who have the status to play in this tournament to commit or not. And then once those commitments come in tonight, then when I say come in, they go to the PGA Tour headquarters near Jacksonville, Florida. And then they will get into the tournament based on the rank order of their status with the tour. And then everybody who wants to play in the tournament will know where they stand following tonight. The tour will let the players know, and then the tour will put out a press release letting everybody else know. And so that gets us through tonight. Most of that will happen tomorrow. And then Monday at Sand Hollow will be the Monday qualifier, the Monday Q, or in golf parlance, Monday is a verb, actually. And they talk about Mondaying into a golf tournament. That means successfully making the cut in the Monday qualifier. And then after the Monday Q, we will totally know the field.
So as someone, and I have been down there, I did play it a couple of months back now, and we'll see how tee times are moving forward now that the world's about to see this course. But if a PGA Tour player or a caddy called Paul Pugmire and said, tell me about the track, what do I need to do to get my guy ready, what would you tell him?
First thing is they need to know it's a Tom Weiskopf design. Tom Weiskopf, and it was his last one before Mr. Weiskopf passed away. But Weiskopf has some personal characteristics in his design philosophy that show up in his designs around the world, and certainly show up at Black Desert. The green complexes are big and they are complicated, and it will take players a long time to really learn these green complexes. Quick digression: J. Don Blake, who of course we know is in the field and a St. George resident, he has been playing it a lot for the purpose of learning these Tom Weiskopf green complexes, and I had a chance to talk to him about that a couple of weeks ago, and it's very interesting. It's where J. Don's focus is. Second thing on a Weiskopf course is that Weiskopf is largely responsible for raising the status of and making standard a drivable par 4. On this course, it's number 14. And as people watch the tournament, pay attention to number 14. There will be low scores on 14. We'll see a bunch of 3s. We might see some 2s. We're also going to see some 6s and maybe 7s because it's a risk-reward drivable par 4. That's a Weiskopf signature thing. And those are the two main elements that you would just say going into it. It's a Weiskopf course. You've got complicated green complexes and a drivable par 4 coming down the stretch.
Got to take a moment to brag because I never can when it comes to this game. Your boy over here drove 14 when I played it.
Nice. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled for you. I think that is so cool, and it's a terrific hole. And the way that green sits up, kind of to the right and slightly up that little rise, it's a tough shot to get the ball back in there. But and there's an opportunity for it to get into the rocks if you don't get it back in there. But it's a pretty hole. I think it's going to be great, and people are going to love it.
Followed by a 3-putt, just to finish the story. So,
Okay.
that's how it goes, Paul. That's how it goes. Hey, any chance or any word about Tony Finau potentially heading down there? Is there any prayer?
I don't know. He's not in the field as of yesterday when I looked. He has until tonight to commit one way or another. You know, he is one of the 24 players in the world of golf who were really busy last week at the President's Cup in Montreal. He might just need some time off. I don't know what Tony's plans are this next week.
All right. Well, one more thing here. Let's bounce over to a couple of other topics. Do you think, or maybe this is in place, I honestly don't know, so I'm asking just to ask. Do you think this event is going to be a permanent fixture here in our state? Will we see PGA golf in Utah for the immediate future, if not longer than that?
Immediate future, yes. They being Black Desert Resorts and the PGA Tour have a 5-year contract. So,
okay.
Yeah, the immediate future is set. And nobody should give a second thought to there not being longer than a 5-year contract. None of them are. And the reality is both parties want to test it and make sure it's successful. But, we've talked about the leadership at Black Desert, in particular Patrick Manning. And there is no question that Patrick Manning will make this successful and that the PGA Tour will want to stay.
All right. Actually, I wanted to ask you this. I was thinking about this today when I got the rundown, saw that you were hopping on the show, because I've never asked you this question. You travel a lot, and you go to a lot of great events, including the President's Cup that we'll get to, and you play a lot of great golf courses. And one of the conversations that I have with guests that are involved with other sports is the reputation of the Utah basketball community, the reputation of the Utah football community, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, obviously, we're a basketball state. There's a gym in every church. If you didn't play high-level basketball, chances are you know how to play if you went to church and played basketball. Our college football scene has really evolved over the past decade into one of the best college football communities west of the Mississippi. And I could keep going. We have more youth who play soccer per capita than any other state in the country. Part of that is because everybody has 71 kids, but we can move off of that. When you travel around the country and people say, okay, what's your grift, Paul? What's your deal, Paul? What do you do? And I use that term gently. We all have a grift. I have one from 2 to 6 every day. And you say, hey, I am from Utah, and I cover golf both nationally and locally. What's the reaction? What's the reputation of the Utah golf community? Now, for me, growing up in a place where if you played a Muni, you were lucky to have one within a 45-minute drive, and you're going to pay $150 for a track that nobody takes care of. I don't belong to a country club. I'm a weekend grinder. I'm Bonneville. I'm Mountain Dell. All Nibley Men's League. I played in that this year. My opinion on the golf scene here is there's affordable, incredible golf in a way that I just haven't experienced anywhere else. And now some of these high-level courses that are being built in Summit County and obviously down in St. George that are attracting heavy hitters in the golf community, it feels like the golf community in Utah is no longer a secret. What's your take on that?
Well, you summed it up well. It is not a secret, and there's several inputs on that. But the first stop to answer your question has to do with our top players, and that holds true in any sport. Who are the top players? They're going to get the most attention. And that's Tony Finau, but Danny Summerhays as well. Danny is very well known and highly respected. And part of it is because of the Summerhays brand. His family name is so well known and respected. His uncle Bruce, who won 3 times on the Champions Tour, his brother Boyd, who is Tony's coach and was the top-ranked junior player in the world when he was a high school kid. And so, then what Danny's nephew, Boyd's son, Preston Summerhays, is doing. Preston Summerhays, of course, playing right now at Arizona State. He is the number one ranked player in college golf, and he is a former USGA junior champion. So the Summerhays name is widely known, widely respected. What Zach Blair and what Patrick Fishburne are doing is also known. So the top players play a big part in it, of course. What's really interesting is that in terms of our state's reputation and in terms of people knowing about our state is the rise of awareness around the country of junior golf in Utah. The junior PGA Junior League team from Utah that was coached by Telly Whiteman at Thanksgiving Point won a national championship 2 years ago, and they're going back to the finals again for the third time. You've got two players in particular out of Utah as junior players. Cole Ponich, who's currently at BYU, played on the U.S. Junior Ryder Cup team, got a lot of national and international exposure there. And right now, the number one player, high school player in the nation is Kihei Akina from Lone Peak High. Kihei got a sponsor's invitation into this Black Desert Championship next week, and nobody is surprised. Nobody is saying it was just a publicity ploy. This kid can play, and so Utah junior golf is known. But then I really love your last point. For the people who are deep into the game and really understand and know how it affects not just top tournament players, but golfers and the lifestyle of a golfer, the fact that we have a well-developed public course system with high-quality courses that are accessible and affordable, that is actually pretty well known out there. I get questions about that all the time.
All right, Paul, want to have a little fun on a Friday. I'm a fun guy, Paul. You know, that's people don't talk about how fun I am. I mean, I'm a fun guy. I think I'm an underrated fun guy. I need more credit for that. But it was announced, and I actually wanted to kind of have a little fun with you on this topic because it was announced that Full Swing Season 3 is coming to Netflix, and that documentary has really blown up and has exposed the game of golf to a lot of people. It is wildly popular, and it's really well done. They followed kind of the F1 formula, the racing documentary. I didn't watch that, but it seemed like that really exploded the sport. So Full Swing 3 is coming back to Netflix coming up next year. I'm going to put 4 golfers on the board, okay? And I want, historically speaking, if it was possible for Full Swing to do a tell-all documentary on 4 golfers historically, who would Paul Pugmire want those 4 golfers to be and why?
What an interesting question. It's hard for me not to start with Tony Finau, even though I know his story. I find it just so compelling and endlessly interesting. And candidly, and in some ways, unfortunately, his story is becoming more interesting because of the lawsuits surrounding his young days as a golf professional as he was working his way to the tour. I don't have any inside knowledge on the details of that or how it will work out, but and I do think that it's a real unfortunate situation for everybody involved. But if the question is what would make an interesting story, that it adds to that, and in part because Tony is such a good man and such a kind-hearted and friendly person. But yeah, I think Tony's story is just endlessly interesting, and I'd want to see that. I think that Cam Champ, who has won here in Utah, he won on the Korn Ferry here in Utah, but at Oak Ridge at the Utah Championship. Cam Champ is a wonderful story as well. He is of mixed race, but he is, of course, involved both in the African American community and in the Caucasian communities as well. And he is an athletic freak. He has immense power and speed, and he's very thoughtful. And I really enjoy him as a person. I've had a chance to get to know him a little bit. He's a first tee kid, and I think the element of the first tee in his story makes him interesting as well. And then I would like to see Full Swing is a PGA Tour arrangement. It's a Netflix property, but their agreement is with the PGA Tour. And so it's PGA Tour players. And I just got to say here parenthetically real quick, Full Swing had a massive presence at the President's Cup. And the President's Cup, of course, is a PGA Tour property. Full Swing was everywhere there. And so they were definitely working on things at the President's Cup. But I think that some of the players on the bubble, players who hang around the top 125, or maybe in this case, with the qualifications have changed recently, the top 70 might make for interesting stories there. And then one other player that I really like a lot is I really like Gary Woodland. Now, Gary is a U.S. Open champion, but then he has had real severe life-threatening health issues, a brain tumor, and he's come back from it, and he is back on the PGA Tour. He's actually playing pretty well this week down at Sanderson Farms in Mississippi, but he is a really compelling story, I think, because of what he has had to overcome. Plus, he's pretty interesting. He played D1 college basketball, for heaven's sakes. This guy he's an athlete. He's a large, powerful man who was reduced to not much when he was really sick, and he's worked his way back. I think he's a compelling story.
Paul, what's coming up on the show tomorrow?
Well, we're going to be teeing up the Black Desert. Like I said, it's on everybody's mind all the time. We will be talking with John Collenbaugh, who is the tournament director of the Black Desert, the week before we then get in the car and head down to St. George and spend a week there at Black Desert. We also will be talking with some of the recent champions here in Utah, the recent winner of the Utah Senior Women's State Am, and a couple of junior champions as well, and updates on the college scene. College golf is in full swing. I know that football gets the attention in the fall, but the fall college golf season is pretty interesting. We'll be talking about that as well.
Paul, thanks for the time. Be well, okay?
Thank you, Spencer.
All right, Utah Hockey Club is in action coming up, man. We are Hockey Town, USA. I want to bring in a special guest, Bob Ibach, on the show on a Friday. Bob, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing good, Spence. Nice to be with you, and always enjoy when I'm out your way, listen to your show, and I hope you have a good weekend coming up. And, yeah, I'm excited about, what's going on with the Utah Hockey Club because as a sports writer years ago, I covered the Washington Capitals for a bit, the Broad Street Bullies in Philly. Always enjoyed my hockey days as a sports writer and also did some broadcasting there. So we've got something I think fans are going to want to go ahead and grab something. You can write this down or get the information because I'll give out a phone number and a website in just a moment on this really, really cool historic Utah Hockey Club puck set. There's 2 hockey pucks that come with their own individual display cases. They're in acrylic display cases with a gold base to them. They're only going to make 2,024 of these, very, very limited, and they sell for $79.95. You'll get an individually numbered certificate of authenticity. Everything is fully licensed and approved, and before I give out that ordering information, I will let people know this could make a great Christmas or holiday gift idea. You'll get 2 pucks. The first one has it's an official NHL game puck, which will have the Utah Hockey Club insignia right on one of the sides of that puck. The second puck will give information on one side, the inaugural season logo, the date of the first game coming up against the Blackhawks on Tuesday, October the 8th, played at the Delta Center. And we'll also, on the flip side of that, we'll list the 2024-25 roster for the team right there. So it really makes it special. It's very, very historic. And, again, I want to point out, these will sell out quickly. I was looking the other day and saw that, wow, 11,000 season tickets sold in just 4 hours. So I can only imagine some of those fans are going to want to go ahead and commemorate with this item. The toll-free number you can go ahead and call, it's real easy, 800-345-2868. Again, that's 800-345-2868. And Spencer, we've got a nice website set up. You can see both of the hockey pucks there. They really are sharp looking. You can order them there as well, NIKOsports.com. And I'll spell that slowly. It gets a little tricky. NIKCO-sports.com. That's NIKCO-sports.com. Or just give them a call at 800-345-2868. But then I want to caution everybody, there's only 2,024 of these, and you get both hockey pucks for $79.95. You'll have them in plenty of time to use for the holiday season.
Bob, thank you, sir, for the time. Appreciate it, and look forward to chatting again, all right?
All right, you have a good day and a better weekend, okay?
All right, Bob Iback. Check it out. 2-puck set. The first game is Tuesday, October the 8th against the Chicago Blackhawks. All right, we're live today. Equipped Expedition Outfitters. It's their open house. They're open until 7 o'clock tonight. My buddy Paul May stops by. Paul, how are you, buddy?
Doing really well, thanks.
I appreciate your time. So let's talk origin story, because there has to have been some sort of seminal moment in your life where you had some sort of inspiration to do what you do now. How did this all get started?
A world of fascination in my head from when I was a little kid and backpacking with the Scouts. It had moved on to traveling around the United States, and I really started it in earnest when I got into late high school and early college, and started traveling the western United States by back road and vehicle, and that expanded into other territories. And since then, I've got 45 years of wandering.
Good for you, man.
In here, and it's taken me everywhere, dozens of times the length of the peninsula of Baja, driven to the end of Alaska up to Prudhoe Bay, and been as far south as Honduras by vehicle. Spent some time in Australia doing the same. South Africa, been there multiple times. Been to Namibia and Botswana, and traveled a bunch with some really good friends and met incredible people. And that's what I found is that the more you travel, the more you realize that we are all the same, and there's a lot of good people in the world. And it starts to take prejudice out of our lives, and you have a little bit more sympathy for the world and the people you're traveling with, and just people in general. And I think everybody should travel more, and I think they'd have a lot more sympathy for the people around them.
It's so well said, and I actually was going to follow up with, what I do for a living mandates that I don't have a lot of time off. This show is me, right? It's 4 hours every day. But whenever I do have time off, I go. And whenever I go, there's always the inevitable, anxiety, right? Should I really do this? Sometimes I go by myself, right?
Sure.
I enjoy spending time alone in nature. And whenever I come back, when I force myself to do it, okay, get out of your comfort zone. I love being home, love my dog, but get out of your comfort zone. Whenever I come back, I've noticed I just think differently.
Yeah.
And I can't articulate it in the way somebody like you can articulate because of where you've been. I haven't been to 20% of the places you've been. But
I'm very fortunate.
In addition to what you just said about understanding that we all are one, which, my goodness, we kind of need that message right now.
Especially now.
Yeah, in our society. What have you noticed about the way traveling has changed your mind?
It's very transformative. Where you go to somewhere that you're hesitant about, and heck, it could be Los Angeles.
Sure, yeah.
Or it could be Namibia, and wherever that is there's always that hesitation and that fear. But once you get there and you meet the people, you find out that they're just like you. And honestly, the rest of the world is a lot nicer than we are. The Americans have their way about them. But everywhere I've gone, I've come back richer and fuller in my life. And I appreciate what we have here in the United States. It's an awesome place to be from, and I'm proud to be an American. But I also think that we can sure learn a lot from a lot of other places on the planet that are not as fortunate. The folks in, for instance, Baja California, I've been down there multiple times. People that don't have the shirt to give off their back would, if you ask them. super people. And that's just one example from a lot of places that I've gone. And every time I come back from a trip, I feel better about myself, and I treat people here differently than I did when I went and when I left. I understand a little bit more about the nature of people, and I have a lot more patience and a lot more empathy for the people around me, and it makes me a better person. And I think all of us could learn a lot from that. So we're all for that, whatever that might be.
I need to take a vacation.
Absolutely.
I need to come down here and grab myself some of this gear and go. And I would imagine a lot of this is resonating with a lot of people, because we all get lost in our day-to-day and our job and our grind, and pay our bills and support our family, take care of our bodies, everything that we have to do every single day.
Yeah.
You wake up and you go, whew, and then you kind of lose who you are in the grind of trying to be somebody that maybe that you're not. So I would imagine a lot of listeners are thinking, I want to do what Paul did, and I want to go travel, but I don't know how. How can you help them?
Well, honestly, that's why I believe we're here.
Sure.
Are we selling products? Sure. Are we trying to make a profit? Sure. But that's not the reason or the focus of what our business is. What I would like to do is to help people get over the hurdles that they're finding in their way. The obstacles that are there really aren't. And we can help people find a route, or give them the confidence or the inspiration or the knowledge that they feel that they're lacking. Come in, and maybe it might be a conversation about a great fishing hole, or a good camp spot in southern Utah, or how do I get to Alaska without the bears eating me? Whatever that is,
sure.
We're here to help. And if some of our products would help out in that means, by all means, we'd love to help you in that aspect too. But we're here more than just a toy store. We're here to help influence people, inspire people, and get them out there.
And it is your open house, so we have a lot of specials. We've got a food cart that's probably pulling up momentarily. So let's start there. What kind of food are we giving people today?
Our friends at Black Sheep Bar and Grill. I've known the ownership for, it's going on 30 years. I was just telling some friends that we've been around forever, and he's been a big influence in my world of Toyotas and Land Cruisers. They are down here. They're going to be serving up barbecue pork sliders, as well as the chips and drinks and all of that fun stuff. They're here from 4 to 7. We're very excited to have them a part of that. But we also have several raffles going on today and tomorrow. Our raffles today, it's in just a few minutes. In fact, we're a few minutes over. It's 4 o'clock, and another one at 6:30 today. 6:30, we're giving around a grand prize, about a $2,500 rooftop tent is the grand prize for that. Tomorrow we have 2 raffles, and our open house is 9 to 1. And the raffles are at 11 and 12:30, and we've got wonderful prizes, over $6,000 in prizes we're giving away the next 2 days.
You also have sales going on right now, but it's for the open house. It's for the special, so
Yes,
let's hear about those.
Absolutely. For today's open house and tomorrow's time frame, we've got some events, specials on brands like Ignik, Julka, Devo Sliding, Easy On from South Africa. We're the U.S. distributor for rooftop tents, up to 40% off in that aspect. And the one that we're really excited about is we're the exclusive Utah dealer for Scout campers. We have a couple of the brand new 2025 models here. We have a couple clearance 2024 models that we've got around $2,500 in incentives today on those, and those incentives will last through next Saturday. So if spontaneous purchase of a umpteen bajillion-dollar camper is a little hard, so we're giving people an extra few days to think that one over.
Sure.
But we have some wonderful deals on small stuff to medium stuff to big stuff.
Let's get the address out there. Tell people where we're at today.
Absolutely. We're at 1005 Bending River Road, and that is about 10th South and 19th West, just west of Redwood Road.
Best thing to do is put that in your GPS. Follow it for a minute. You might not think you're going in the right direction, but you are. Look for the ESPN 700 van right out front. Come on in and get some great deals on awesome gear. Paul, we'll chat again.
Thank you.
All right, coming up on the other side, we'll do a little pro football today. Thursday night football last night. Kirk Cousins kind of changing the narrative of who he is. Look ahead to the pro football weekend ahead. Do a little college as well. Austin Gale is still set to join us. And we'll go from there on a Friday. We sound off at 6, so keep it right here on ESPN 700. All right, we got some breaking news that we'll bring to you coming up in just a little bit because the majority of the field for the Black Desert Championship has just been released. So we now know most of the golfers who will be in St. George coming up for this event, and we've been waiting for this announcement. It's a cool list. I'll be honest, it's better than I thought it was going to be. We'll do that coming up before the top of the hour. Roxy Bernstein will stop by to do some baseball and some college football. But let's do a little NFL with our buddy Austin Gale from The Ringer. Austin, happy Friday, man. How we doing? Hello, Austin.
Doing fantastic. How are you?
Oh, there he is. Appreciate the time, man. So I want to start here. I don't need to tell a football guy like you who Kirk Cousins is. I'm sure you know and have known for a while. But maybe for the general public, and I'll admit maybe a little bit for my own, unconscious bias and cognitive dissonance, is it time we start talking about him differently? I mean, last night was in a vacuum, but from a 30,000-foot view, the way he's come up clutch time after time over the past few years, should we be talking about Kirk Cousins differently than we do?
I kind of like the Kirko swag surfing. You like that 2.0 that we're getting from Kirk Cousins in Atlanta. I think that he kind of has new life there. I know week one was a struggle. It looks like he can't move. It looks like he was still kind of recovering from the Achilles. And then you had Troy Aikman on the broadcast the following week say he's comfortable working from the pocket, but not really comfortable moving. Even if you look at last night, I think only one of his completions came on a throw where he's moving outside the pocket. I think he's a lot more limited running and moving and mobility than he has in previous years. But in terms of like his confidence in the offense, ability to distribute the football, like confidence throwing in between the numbers in front of the two safeties, I think that we saw last night 509 yards passing, obviously the franchise record. I think 50 yards better than any game he's had in a league where everyone's playing these two high defenses. Everyone's trying to take the explosive play away, take the deep pass away. He has the confidence to still fire the ball in there on the dig route to Drake London or Darnell Mooney or even Kyle Pitts we saw last night have success. I think it's showing like growth and maturity, and I do think we need to talk about him differently. I still don't think he's an overly mobile quarterback. I also worry that like there are going to be defenses that are more willing to get aggressive with these Atlanta Falcons receivers and play man coverage, one specifically that don't have banged up secondaries like Tampa Bay obviously does, that will limit this offense. But I think we saw last night, if you want to sit back, play zone, this offensive line's good enough to protect him up front, and these receivers are catching everything they throw his way.
So let me follow up with this. Does Kirk Cousins get his due from his peers and the people in football? Because I do think there is this narrative from the general public and people who just watch the NFL casually that he's top 12, 13 maybe, and he's not a guy that historically speaking has won in very big moments. But if you ask like a seasoned NFL scout, like give me your take on Kirk Cousins, what would he say, Austin?
I think he would say he's a top 12 quarterback in the league. I think they'd also say that you need to protect him for him to have success. I think you need receivers that can get open. I think you need an offensive play caller that's willing to call play action and kind of do the pre-snap motion and these little things that kind of like make him a more effective quarterback. He's not like unlike any other quarterback, right? We talk a lot about like Dak Prescott and, oh my gosh, the Dallas Cowboys offensive coordinator makes it so hard on him and he needs to do everything for this offense. I think in Atlanta, Zach Robinson, a former PFS guy, I sat next to him in the office. I think he's doing a lot of the things that put Kirk Cousins in a position to succeed. Obviously in week one, no play action passes, didn't move the pocket at all and was kind of formulaic. I think they've gone away from that now, running a lot more play action, mixing in Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson. And honestly, you saw last night, Kyle Pitts finally get involved. You saw him on the seam bender versus cover two. Like all that stuff, I think they're figuring it out in real time, figuring out what works, figuring out what doesn't. I don't know if you saw after the game, they were talking to Kirk Cousins about spiking the ball late and getting that field goal off. You saw Zach Robinson say, you know what, I trust you to throw the slant here. We don't need to go out of bounds. Let's just get up and spike it. Like I already see that relationship between the offensive play caller, Zach Robinson, and Kirk Cousins getting better every single week. And I think that's going to help unlock them with what is objectively a lot of talent in Atlanta. Offensive line's well-paid. Caleb McGarry's very good. Jake Matthews is talented. Chris Lindstrom is talented. But the receiving core, you got Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier. Like, there is enough weapons here to win with Kirk Cousins. Now, in these clutch moments, you are not a clutch guy until you prove you are. And I think that's still what we haven't seen from Kirk.
All right, let's move over to a couple of stories that have kind of come down since you and I last spoke, and it's not very often in the early parts or middle of the season a player like Devontae Adams becomes available, and my New York Jets, which I would love to see, and maybe the New Orleans Saints, because Devontae has ties to both quarterbacks, as we know. Your thoughts on the story, and how do you think it plays out, Austin?
Well, I think going into the season, I'm a born and raised Raiders fan, season tickets in Oakland for 10 years growing up. I think going into the year, I thought that Davante Adams was untradeable because he's such an essential part of the locker room and someone that I think Antonio Pierce wants to lean on as a leader in the locker room. But I think over the course of the first 4 weeks of the season, I think we quickly found out that Davante Adams is kind of over playing in games that don't matter. He's kind of over figuring out the quarterback position. He's kind of over, like, even coaches trying to iron out the kinks in terms of what they want to be as coaching in the NFL. I think he wants to play with experienced players and experienced coaches, and he wants to play in games that matter. Right? He wants to go to the playoffs. He wants to play in big games against good football teams where they actually have a chance, and he's not getting that in Las Vegas. Maybe he thought he was with Derek Carr and Josh McDaniels, but that obviously all has changed. I ultimately think he does get moved. I think the biggest reason he's not been moved already is the New York Jets are traveling to London this week. And I think that, like, all the logistics of getting to London and with Davante Adams be even on the trip to London, do you want to trade for him before you can even get him there and be with the team? I think that this trade ultimately happens after this weekend. Davante Adams already ruled out with a quote-unquote hamstring injury. We don't know the severity of that, but I imagine that Davante Adams has already played his last game as a Raider. I think early next week is when you see ultimately him move to either the Jets, the Saints. I know some other teams have been interested as well, but I think the Jets are ultimately going to be the team that's willing to pay the highest price, right? Because that team, the Jets, Nathaniel Hackett, Robert Saleh, not Woody Johnson, but Joe Douglas, they're kind of coaching for their jobs. If the Jets don't make the playoffs this year, win a playoff game, I think they clean house. So Davante Adams, they obviously need that piece. Aaron Rodgers wants that piece. I think he has more say than anyone else in that team. I think the Jets ultimately get it done, but it probably happens when they get back from London.
All right, I don't know that there's any credence to – I mean, I'm sure Tyreek Hill isn't pumped. I mean, Tyler Huntley is our guy. He played for the Utes, but, it has not looked great since Tua went down. So I just want your take on where we're at in Miami, not just with the noise around Tyreek, but the potential of Tua coming back. Is that the right thing to do? And what do they do under center? Because they just can't move the football right now.
Yeah, I think it's impossible for me to speak to kind of what the right thing to do is. I think Tua and Mike McDaniel has been all over it. It's Tua Tagovailoa's call, right? I think that he's going to be the person that is having the most accurate and the most honest conversations with doctors and professionals that, like, can actually read into his situation. I think it's Tua Tagovailoa who ultimately is going to make that decision, and you hope that things work out for him, right? It's a scary situation every time he takes the field. I think we forgot last year because he played in all 17 games that this injury history was there for him. And honestly, you're wishing the best for Tua Tagovailoa and eager to hear his decision regardless of what that decision is. I think for Miami, taking Tua Tagovailoa out of it for a second, I've been pretty disappointed with what Mike McDaniel has done offensively with the Miami Dolphins this season. I think it's very easy to say, well, he lost Tua Tagovailoa in week 2, and he has not been able to, that's obviously a big, not just like a hit to the team, but also like an emotional hit to the team. I mean, he kissed Tua Tagovailoa on the head in that game. Like, it was like a very emotional moment for the Miami Dolphins and Mike McDaniel specifically. But when you think about how other teams this season, specifically other coaches, have handled quarterback injuries, Shane Steichen won a game with Joe Flacco. In that game against Miami, against Snoop Huntley, Will Levis goes down with an injury. Brian Callahan's able to win a game with Mason Rudolph. Matt LaFleur won 2 games with Malik Willis, completely redesigned a brand new offense around Malik Willis to win games when Jordan Love went down on a random Sao Paulo, Brazil game on a Friday. Like, how other coaches have responded to quarterback injuries versus what Mike McDaniel has been able to do with Tua Tagovailoa simply has been bad, right? 32nd in offensive points per drive, 32nd in offensive EPA per drive. I mean, even when you go back to week 1 when they had Tua Tagovailoa, they only put up 17 points against that Jacksonville Jaguars team. They arguably should have lost if ETN doesn't fumble on his way to the end zone. And then week 2 against Buffalo, they're getting blown out before Tua Tagovailoa got hurt. So I do think that this offense taking a step back. Obviously, Tua injury is a big part of that. But you have to be kind of disappointed that a team with Jalen Waddle, Devon Chain, Tyreek Hill, an offensive line that they spent money on, like, you have to be kind of disappointed that this is literally the least efficient offense in the league. It's the worst offense in the league by points per drive.
So nobody gives a rip about this, and I'm not asking you because my fantasy football team has Puka Nacua, Rashee Rice, Joe Mixon, I could keep going. It's a bad year for your guy here, Austin. But I am curious as to what you think Kansas City will now do with Rashee Rice sidelined. at least for the next 4 games. But if you look at the injury, it feels like it's going to be a minute. I guess we'll wait and see. Do they hit the market? The reports are they're not interested in getting into the Devontae Adams sweepstakes. Do they just go with who they have? They lost Hollywood Brown, too. What do the Chiefs do with this recent injury to their number 1 wideout?
I think the answer is probably add somebody. I'd be really surprised that I think Rashee Rice was already placed on the injured reserve. He's going to miss at least 4 games, if not more. Marquise Brown is out for the season. Travis Kelce, some say he's just not being focused in the offense. I still think Travis Kelce had, let's call it, the most unique summer of his football playing career. I would be shocked if he was able to come into this season the same shape, the same mentality. I mean, didn't he star in a TV show? He's in Happy Gilmore, too. He's dating the biggest celebrity in the world. I don't think he came into this season with the same headspace he's had in previous September. Let's just say that. So Travis Kelce, I think, needs to get more involved. He needs to get in shape. Noah Gray, who they signed to an extension, the other tight end, probably needs to get more involved. And then you have to look around the rest of the league and try and figure out who among the non-contenders has receiving talent that they're willing to part ways with. I'm not saying spend a first, second, or third-round pick on anybody that's on these rosters, but, Amari Cooper not too long ago was traded for a 5th-round pick. His contract now makes it very easy for him to trade. You know he doesn't want to be in Cleveland much longer. I think we've seen that in every facial expression he's had in games. That's a name that I like. I think there are other receivers as well, like DeAndre Hopkins in Tennessee. There are other receivers as well that I think they can kind of scrape these rosters for. But I'd be really shocked if they don't add anyone, just because I still think that they need depth more than anything.
All right, I honestly don't know specifically your preseason expectations for everybody. I mean, I look at your stuff, you're a guest. So I'm just going to ask the question like this. Of all of the teams that Austin Gale believes is off to a rough start, a disappointing start, which one team would you identify that you believe is in legitimate trouble as we enter Week 5 now?
It's got to be the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? I mean, the only winless team in the league. I think that if they lose this week as 2.5-point favorites at home against the Indianapolis Colts, drop to 0-5, we're going to have a serious conversation about Doug Peterson and Trent Baalke, right? Because the problem, if you ask anybody probably in Jacksonville other than Doug Peterson and Trent Baalke, is not Trevor Lawrence. I think it's how they've built this roster. It's how they've drafted. It just hasn't been good enough. How are we still not talking about how Trayvon Walker at first overall was just a disaster compared to what Aiden Hutchinson has become in the NFL? They took that risk. That has not panned out. Every receiver they've added every single offseason has not been enough. Gabe Davis is not enough. Christian Kirk is not enough. They tried the Calvin Ridley experiment and already cut bait. Defensively, they added Ryan Nielsen. I just don't think that this Jacksonville Jaguars team has done a good enough job surrounding Trevor Lawrence with talent. I think Trevor Lawrence has also made mistakes. I think Trevor Lawrence has not been perfect. He's not been this generational prospect he was built to be. But I think that they're due for a change of pace. And I think we forget how much Doug Peterson coming in after Urban Meyer, people were able to just breathe a fresh air. It's like, oh my gosh, we have a real NFL coach now. And it's such a massive upgrade over the coach that was literally kicking our players. Thank God we have Doug Peterson. But now we're a few years removed from that. We're wait a second. Doug Peterson was an upgrade, but maybe not as big of an upgrade as we thought just because of how bad it was with Urban Meyer.
All right, so to say that Jaden Daniels wasn't good when he was in the Pac-12 is not correct. Okay, we had him in this footprint. We saw him play the University of Utah on a few different occasions, and he was good, okay, but he wasn't this. And of all the rookie quarterbacks, Austin, I think it's safe to say that he has shined above the rest. Does this surprise you? What stands out about this young quarterback for Washington?
Absolutely surprises me. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury was not able to figure it out with Kyler Murray in Arizona. Offensively, outside of Terry McLaurin, they traded Jahan Dotson before the season. Luke McCaffrey's getting snaps for the team. De'Ami Brown, the former North Carolina receiver, was not panning out as people expected going into this year. At running back, I think a lot of people like Brian Robinson, but they don't think he's a bell cow by any means. People like Austin Eckler, but I think a lot of people going into this year thought, okay, Washington is where his career goes to die, but he's even looked pretty good as well. Defensively, Dan Quinn, I think, is a positive impact overall, but they've been a rainbow strip defensively. Really, any offense coming in has struggled to create or has been able to create offensive plays against them. With Jaden Daniels specifically, I think it's been just kind of a perfect landing spot. Plus, his biggest problem coming out of LSU was taking sacks. pressure to sack ratio is the highest of any draft-eligible quarterback over the last 5 years. But what they really coached into him, like really drilled into his brain from my perspective, is, hey, you got one read, and it's time to run. You know, there are a handful of plays where you're like, right tackle gets beat by the defensive end, pressure staring in his face, they call stick across the board, he pumps once, runs for 8 yards. It's like, wow, how many quarterbacks is that a negative play? How many quarterbacks is that at least an incompletion, a throwaway? I think the extra mobility and just like this new decision-making he's in, he's taking less hits, he's taking less sacks, he's running the football effectively. I think it's been a really impressive coaching, performance for this Washington team, because I think Jaden Daniels, like, stylistically and even just like how he's approaching and thinking about the game looks a lot different compared to what he was doing at LSU.
All right, Austin, before I say you lose, appreciate your time on a Friday. We are having tea with our friends across the pond. The corny cliche, but yes, they're going to play in London. It's the Jets-Vikings. It is a early kick. I want to ask you about both these teams. I'm a Jets fan, and it's been fine, not great. It's been my life, what I'm accustomed to. But on the other side, Sam Darnold, another kid who we had out here, and I watched him play a number of times. So I always thought was good. I mean, I wanted him to really excel with the Jets. He didn't, but he has so far with Minnesota. How real is the start to Sam Darnold's season and that of the Minnesota Vikings, and what do you make of the Jets through 4 games?
I think it's absolutely real. I think it also is like we're in an interesting time in the NFL where these reclamation projects like Baker Mayfield, former number 1 overall pick, having success in Tampa Bay. You have Kirk Cousins, who's been every team's got not necessarily a reclamation project, but someone who's like maybe not a Patrick Mahomes ever that kind of ceiling, but someone that we can put in our offense and have success with. Geno Smith in Seattle, right? Like he's been a completely different player, another former New York Jet. Sam Darnold now going to Minnesota with a really good offensive staff really good offensive line, really good offensive play caller in Kevin O'Connell, go Aztecs, former San Diego State guy. I think that with the league and how complex the league has become with these 2 high defenses and what defensive coordinators are throwing out with these fire zones and all that stuff, how different it is from the college game, I think it's become that much more important to have a quarterback that still is not seeing the game so fast, right? Every single year, the bottom 5 quarterbacks in EPA per dropback are rookies or second-year players, right? Guys that are still figuring out the league, still trying to catch up to the pace of the league, whereas these guys that find ways to stick around and ultimately land with an offensive play caller that plays to their skill set, with what Sam Darnold has and Kevin O'Connell, then they start to actually have success. Like Baker Mayfield, I think, is another really good example of that, right? He had like 6 different offensive play callers, 5 different head coaches to start his career, bounced around in Los Angeles. He was in Carolina, obviously started with the Cleveland Browns. Now he's in a good position. He's revitalized by Dave Canales, Liam Cohen, former Kentucky offensive coordinator, now calling plays in Tampa. He looks good there. He's surrounded with good offensive tackle talent, has good receivers. Like, I almost feel like there's this version of the NFL where obviously everyone wants to swing the bat on a rookie. Everyone wants this rookie contract to go make plays with and see if they can get a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or a C.J. Stroud, whatever, Joe Burrow. But for these other teams, they're having a lot of success with saying, like, hey, this guy's been in the league for 5-6 years, never really had a good supporting cast. Let's give this guy a shot. And he's cheap as well, right? Everyone's like, rookie contracts are so cheap. Baker Mayfield's contract's cheap. Sam Darnold's contract's cheap. Geno Smith's contract's cheap. Those are the types of quarterbacks I think you're going to start to see become more of these, like, meat and potatoes of the league.
Austin, thanks so much for the time, buddy. Have a great NFL weekend. Should be fun, and look forward to catching up again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Austin Gale from The Ringer. All right, I want to tell you guys about Fika Infusion. Infuse Fika Infusion and wellness into your routine with everything from semaglutide weight loss shots to IVs. Mention ESPN 700 at your nearest Fika location for $100 off your first IV. More at FikaInfusion.com. Fika is spelled F-I-K-A infusion.com. So I use them for their IV shots. If I wake up, I'm a little groggy. I like to get hydrated before I play golf. $100 off essentially gets you a free IV. So go to FikaInfusion.com. When you show up, tell them I sent you. Tell them you heard it on ESPN 700. Let's welcome in Ryan from the Dish Pros. I have had all of the football I've wanted through 5 weeks of college football and 4 weeks of pro football. Hopefully you guys have too. If you've missed any games, good news is there's still plenty left. What you need to do is call 801-424-DISH. That's 801-424-DISH. What's going on, Ryan?
You know, this is the time to call. Guys, if you haven't heard, price increases are coming, and your bill's going to go up. If you're a DirecTV customer, are you ready to pay more, or do you want to switch? If you're a cable customer, are you ready to pay a lot more? Are you ready to switch? Call us up. Take advantage of the promotions and deals we have. very, very cool offers right now. And if you get set up, the price is guaranteed. You get movie channels. We'll throw in the multi-sports pack for a year, which includes the NFL Red Zone. And, yes, you can watch Hockey Club. You can watch NFL, college, NBA, all in one place. Even if it's on traditional or streaming, the Hopper has the system that can get you all of that on all of your TVs. And it's simple and easy. It's just picking up the remote and turning it on. Call us today. Let's upgrade you. I'll have you installed as early as tomorrow. Throw in dinner at JCW's. Guys, promotions are changing. Don't miss out on these offers. Call us now, 424-DISH, 801-424-DISH.
All right, the Black Desert Championship is on its way to the Black Desert Resort in St. George, October the 9th through the 13th. It's the return of the PGA Tour to Utah for the first time in more than 60 years. Tickets are available at blackdesertevents.com. Black Desert Resort will also host an LPGA Tour event starting in May of 2025, becoming only the second course in the nation to annually host both the PGA Tour and the LPGA Tour event. The other is the Tiburon Golf Course in Naples, Florida, so some good stuff there. All right. Hello, Paul. How are you, sir?
Hi, good.
Good. We're live at Equipped Expedition Outfitters. Okay, we've got the food. Let's start with the food. Come grab some food. Tell us about the food.
You can smell it in here.
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah.
We have barbecue pork sliders with chips and drinks for anybody that shows up. That's provided by Black Sheep Bar and Grill, friends of mine for a couple decades now. Awesome people, awesome food. Come on by and have some food on us.
Let's hit the address right out of the gates. Where are we located?
We're at 1005 Bending River Road, and that's about 19th West and 10th South here in Salt Lake City, just west of Redwood.
Very nice. So the best thing to do, because I drove down here earlier, put it in your GPS, then follow it down and look for the ESPN 700 van right out front. It is their open house, open until 7 o'clock tonight. Tomorrow, opening it up at 9 a.m., going till 1 p.m., as the open house continues into tomorrow. All right, from a broad macro standpoint, what do you do at Equipped Expedition Outfitters? What do you want our listeners to know?
We're experts in overlanding equipment and travel, and what we would like to tell people is that we're here to help in whatever that might be. The word overlanding is getting to be used on a lot more and more, and what overlanding means in its simplest form is vehicle-dependent adventure travel, whatever that adventure might get
Sure.
to. And that's what we specialize in, offering products that it's going to just make your life a lot easier when you're out there in the road and having a good adventure.
And certainly you referenced last time all the travels that you have done yourself and how blessed we are to live in America. We're also blessed to live in Utah, right?
What a state.
There are just so many places, and I've lived here. I'm a transplant of sorts, my formative years in the Northeast, but I've been here for basically 25 years, so it's home, and I've probably seen 10% of the state. And every time I see a new place, I'm like, I live here, which is pretty cool. So let's start from a in-your-backyard standpoint. For our listeners that maybe want to experience our state and haven't, how can you help them get a good setup so they can do it in comfort?
Well, I've been wandering the state of Utah for 45 years now, mostly by vehicle and mountain bike and otherwise. And I have yet to see it all. And every time I turn a corner, I'm just in awe.
Yeah.
If you think about the state of Utah, within 6 hours, we've got 7 national parks. We've got the Wasatch. You can go skiing in the morning and golf in the afternoon. Where else can you do that?
For sure.
And to have southern Utah, I've been a lot of places, but the prettiest place on the planet, in my opinion, is southern Utah. There's nothing like it. So a lot of experience in that area. If you want to come in and chat about a heck of a good view of a camp spot, come on in. I'm happy to help out with that, and so is our team. We're very knowledgeable in that aspect. Come in and see some things, and if you see something that would help out in your adventure, by all means. But we're here to help.
Now, for our Wanderlust, Christopher McCandless Into the Wild listeners that are interested in Argentina or South America, you can help people see Cottonwood Canyon, or you can help people see Buenos Aires, right? Like, sure. and everywhere in between. So let's talk to maybe the dreamers out there. How can you help them?
Well, we've been in business for 18 years now, and we've been supporting world travelers. There's a group called Expedition Overland out of Montana that we were their first sponsor back when they started, and now they're quite the craze if you follow the overlanding world. And their adventures have taken them tip to toe in the Americas, from Prudhoe Bay in Alaska to Ushuaia in Argentina. And we've got pictures in here up on the walls from Uruguay and from Guatemala and Patagonia National Park and a lot of places. The equipment that we offer is expedition grade. It is world travel equipment. It doesn't mean that it's super expensive. It's just built to a different level than you're going to find your average stuff out of some of the sporting goods stores. So that's where we find our niche, is in the ability to help people with that wanderlust.
Very nice, very nice. All right, people love deals. People love free things. Let's do raffles. Let's do the sales you have before I set you loose.
Absolutely. We had our first raffle here at 4 o'clock. Our next raffle and last raffle for the day is at 6:30. That's going to be a really nice raffle. We're giving away a little over $3,000 worth of product at that raffle. Tomorrow from 9 to 1 is our open house, and we have 2 raffles, both at 11 and 12:30 tomorrow, and a lot of prizes for tomorrow too.
Also, you have a lot of items on sale for the open house. I mean, if people want to save money on this top shelf gear, they need to get down here today or tomorrow.
Absolutely. Everything from ratchet straps up to rooftop tents and campers, whatever in between all of that stuff. It's worth a ride down here just to see some of the fun toys that we have available.
All right, buddy, give me that address one more time before I set you loose.
Sure can. It's 1005 Bending River Road here in Salt Lake City, Utah. You can also find us at equipped1.com.
All right, my friend, we'll chat soon, okay?
Thank you.
All right, Equipped Expedition Outfitters, as Paul just referenced, it's 1005 Bending River Road. It's just west of Redwood, essentially 10th South, 1900 West. Easiest thing to do, put that in the GPS, then follow it. ESPN 700 van is right out front. We got free sliders from Black Sheep Bar and Grill. They smell awesome. They got drinks and chips and all the good stuff. And then raffles and sales. If you are into outdoor travel, man, this is the place. I've never really seen anything like it. So, again, 1005 Bending River Road, just west of Redwood, approximately 10th South. All right, we'll catch a break. Coming up on the other side before we get to the top of the hour, we talked to Paul Pugmire earlier, and I've been asking him, and all of my golf guests, quite frankly, when are we going to see the field for the Black Desert Championship coming up down in St. George? Well, we have seen the majority of the field, so it's almost set, but we do know who we will see, and I'm going to give you the list coming up next, because it's really cool. It's a lot better than I thought it was going to be, due respect. So I'll tell you the pro golfers you can expect to see coming up for the Black Desert Championship. Then we'll move over to the 5 o'clock hour. We have an entire hour of college football for you to take you home on a Friday, as Roxy Bernstein will be our guest. And then we'll go from there on a Friday afternoon. Happy Friday to you. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. reporter in his bag today because indeed I did hear it from the grapevine. A source has sent me the majority of the 132-player field for the inaugural Black Desert Championship presented by Greater Zion. It has been finalized. Now, 4 players will earn entry through an open qualifier, which is coming up on Monday down there. The rest of the field has been finalized. So I want to remind you the Black Desert Championship is going to mark the return of the PGA Tour to Utah for the first time in more than 60 years, as the world's men's best golfers will take on this great, wonderful golf course. If you haven't been down there, I would highly recommend it. From the 9th to the 13th of this month, tickets for the tournament are available now with daily grounds and VIP passes offered at blackdesertevents.com. All right, Black Desert Event Championship includes 51 PGA Tour winners who have a combined 121 career events. So here you go. 8 players with Utah ties. We were talking about the Akina kid earlier, the Alpine Lone Peak kid, who's going to play golf at BYU. He will be in the field. Zach Blair, of course, will be in the field. J. Don Blake. How about our guy J. Don Blake? A sponsor exception for his 500th PGA Tour start. Patrick Fishburne, BYU golfer. Zach Jones, of course, won the 2022 Utah State Am. He's a senior at BYU. Peter Quest, the BYU product as well. He lives in American Fork. Bowen Muss, who's a Corner Canyon High School senior and won the 2024 Salt Lake City Am, will be down there. Dustin Volk and Mike Weir. Mike Weir is going to roll to the Black Desert Championship. Of course, played at BYU, lives in Park City, has won 8 times on the PGA Tour, including the Masters in 2003, and he was the President's Cup captain for the international squad at the last President's Cup. Other notable players, so this is pretty cool. Aaron Baddeley, who's won 4 times in the PGA Tour. Daniel Berger, who's won 4 times in the PGA Tour. Cameron Champ. Now, Paul referenced that earlier. Harris English. Lucas Glover, who was featured on Full Swing and was a 6-time PGA Tour winner and won the Open Championship, the U.S. Open, in 2009. So Lucas Glover will be here. J.B. Holmes, Stephen Yeager. Chris Kirk, who's won 6 times and has been really good as of late. Kevin Kistner, who is a 2024 President's Cup assistant captain, has won 4 times on the tour. Martin Laird will be here, as will Ryan Moore, Brant Snedeker, Nick Taylor, Camilo, I always screw this up, Camilo Villegas. That's not right, but you know that dude. He's going to be here too. So a lot of really cool names will be here, and there's going to be a couple of more names added as this is really cool, as the Black Desert Championship is going to roll to St. George. All right, we are live today. Come on by. Equipped Expedition Outfitters. It's their open house. Open now until 7 o'clock. So roll on by. We'll roll into the 5 o'clock hour coming up in just a little bit. We have an hour of college football for you. Coming up in the 5 o'clock hour with Roxy Bernstein. I want to tell you about my friends at Advanced Window Products. This is Nate Orchard, mayor of Sac Lake City, as well as Jake Weber. They're just the best people. The family rules. They've been here forever. They're local. They take care of local people. The sales and installation are all in-house. There's no middleman markup. They build, install, and guarantee for life. Your lifetime warranty is serviced by a local team. Labor, glass, and parts all included. Transferable warranties on the highest quality custom windows you'll get in Utah. Save energy with the rebates from Dominion Energy. They have great financing plans available. It's the fall special this week. You get $2,500 off when you purchase 10 windows or more. Just beat the rush and order today from the factory to your front door in 8 weeks or less. Here's the number. It's 801-850-9100. You can visit them online at advancedwindows.com. Advanced Window Products at 801-850-9100. Our good friends at Advanced Window Products. All right. Ultimately, I have been able to access every single football game that I've wanted through 5 weeks of college football and 4 weeks of pro football. Jazz are about to tip off. Utah Hockey Club. You can get access to every sport that you want and you care about as a local resident by supporting a local company, saving money, getting new equipment by dialing 801-424-DISH. What's going on, Ryan?
Hey, Spence. A lot of things have been going on this week, and one of the things that probably a lot of people have heard is the merger is going to happen between DirecTV and Dish, and this is actually a unique situation. Since we sell both products, it doesn't really affect me very much. Just other than right now, you can still switch from one provider to the other provider and take the new customer offers. So I advise people to think about that instead of staying with that provider until they merge. And not having the option of getting the new customer promotions, take advantage of that now especially right now, DirecTV is actually doing a pretty big rate increase, as high as $10+ a month. That's going to take effect. Now, if you take advantage of the promotion, you're most likely going to spend $60 to $100+ a month less. Plus, you're going to get movie channels. Plus, you get the NFL Red Zone for free for a year. We'll throw in dinner at JCW's, and you get the award-winning Hopper at the 16 tuners, 2 terabytes of storage, and it has the ability to have all the streaming apps. Call us up and take this upgrade. Also, if you're a cable customer, don't get held hostage by your internet. If you're unhappy with your TV service, but you still want the internet, call us up. There's lots of different tricks that we have where you can keep your existing internet, or seriously, there is a lot of good products out there that are probably a lot less than we are currently paying. I've got one of the products that I've been using for 2 years. Comes with a $200 gift card right now. No commitment, no contract, but just a fantastic product. These are ways that we save literally thousands of dollars for people, and you get all the games. Call us today, 424-DISH, 801-424-DISH.
All right, there he is, Ryan from the Dish Bros. Before we catch a break, we're live today at Equipped Expedition Outfitters. The address is 1005 Bending River Road. It's just west of Redwood, about 10th South and 19th West. The best thing to do is put 1005 Bending River Road in your GPS, then follow it out here and look for the ESPN 700 van outside. Paul May stops by once again. Paul, how we doing, man?
Hi, doing really well, thanks.
Appreciate your time. So let's just do this from a macro standpoint. Your spot is for anyone that's into adventure travel, whether it's in your backyard here in Utah or across the country or even across the world.
Exactly, yeah. We're an expedition outfitter, and that's in our name. We've been around for 18 years. I've been doing it a lot longer than that, and we were some of the first overland or expedition vehicle outfitters in the country.
Very nice. So we're feeding people today. People love food. Let's talk about the food that you have here.
Yeah, we're providing anybody to come by. Black Sheep Bar and Grill is here offering barbecue pork sliders and accoutrement.
Very nice.
Drinks as well. Love to have them here, and man, boy, it smells good.
It sure does. Now, let's start with the raffle that you're doing today. When I first walked in and I heard raffle, I'm like, all right, are we giving away a sticker? No, we're giving away like real valued products. Let's talk about the raffles.
Absolutely. We've got one more raffle today. Our open house goes until 7 tonight, and at 6:30 we're having our final raffle. And at that raffle, we've got over $3,000 worth of product that we're giving away. One really big ending product is a soft shell rooftop tent by a company called Easy On out of Johannesburg, South Africa. A very nice tent, expedition level. It's a lifetime tent.
And you know, looking around at some of these rooftop tents, it seems to be like just a great way to see a lot of different places, whether it's yourself or just with a couple of friends, yeah?
Absolutely. Incredibly quick, very comfortable. You can park it in the middle of the stream. You can park it in a boulder field. You can park it on the top of a mountain, wherever, and open up a tent in a few minutes and go right to bed. Very nice.
Now, for folks that like a good deal, you have discounted quality items for the open house. Let's hear about that.
Absolutely. The same company, Easy On, we have a lot of products in the rooftop tent, roof rack, and awning segments from 25 to 40% off on those for our fall clearances. We also have a couple specials here for our open house today and tomorrow from Ignik, Devos, Julka, and a few other brands. Some great discounts, 10 to 25% off there. Also, we're the exclusive Utah dealer for Scout campers, and we have a couple brand new 2025 models in, as well as a couple clearance campers from the 2024 line that we have up to $2,500 off in incentives for taking those off our hands this season.
Very nice. Hit us with the address and website contact information.
Yes, again, the address is 1005 Bending River Road. That's about 10th South and 19th West here in Salt Lake City. Our website is equipped1.com, EQUIPT, the number 1.com.
There we go. Paul, thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks so much for coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 hours down, 1 hour to go, live here at Equipped Expedition Outfitters. Now, look, I'm not necessarily an expert in this stuff. I can promise you I've never seen a place like this. So if you're into camping, it's fall season, the weather's awesome. This is a great time to check it out, whether you just want to go in our backyard here in Salt Lake or the surrounding areas, down south to St. George, thereabouts, or Zion's, or across the country or across the world. The address again, 1005 Bending River Road. It's just west of Redwood. About 10th South. 10th South, 19th West. Put it in your GPS. Follow it. Look for the ESPN 700 van. Come on in. Check it out. Enter the raffle. Get some free food. They're going to be open until 7 o'clock tonight. Tomorrow they open up at 9 a.m. Then they go till 1 p.m. here at Equipped Expedition Outfitters. All right, 3 hours down, 1 hour to go. 5 o'clock hour is going to be all college football. Roxy Bernstein will stop by right before we say goodnight at 6 o'clock right here on ESPN 700. All right, wrapping it up for a Friday show. Final segment of the day, final segment for the week. So it is weekend time. Yeah, Porter, just FYI, I'm kind of ready for the weekend. I don't know how you feel about that.
Are you? I am too. I am too. It should be a fun weekend. So I'm with you on that. But yeah, always appreciate the weekend. But sometimes weeks are longer than others.
Yeah, well said. Give me a final score prediction for the Jazz New Zealand Breakers tonight.
Ooh, I'm going to go 86-77. Just kidding. I'm going to go 96-77 Jazz. How's that?
If the Jazz score under 100 points on the New Zealand Breakers, then we're in trouble.
Or
no Patty Mills tonight. I was going
to say, or we're right on track for exactly what you want for a Jazz season.
Well, I can't argue with that. All right, before we catch a break to say goodnight for a Friday, we're live today at Equipped Expedition Outfitters. It's their open house. So, Paul, as we wrap up, appreciate your time. The folks driving around Saturday, weekend, why should they stop by here at the Equipped Expedition Outfitters open house?
Boy, we've got a whole lot of eye candy here.
Yeah, you do.
And a lot of inspiration. We've got 3 different vehicles set up in our showroom, all of them ready for long-distance adventure travel, or overlanding is the key phrase that's going on right now. But lots of really great equipment to come and check out. We've got a parking lot full of campers and toppers from companies here in the U.S., both Scout Camper and AT Overland. Some wonderful products to look out there. Plus, we have raffles. We got 2 raffles tomorrow. Both our open houses from 9 to 1. Our raffles are at 11 and 12:30, and lots of prizes given away tomorrow. We're somewhere in the range between $3,000 and $4,000 worth of stuff tomorrow.
It's real value. We got rooftop tents and campers, portable fridges, storage solutions, camping essentials. And ultimately, you can help people who are just starting out, and then you can enhance people's setup who think they know what they're doing. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. Anybody that's looking to go up in the Wasatch Range for the night and explore the mountains, or if you're setting your vehicle out to travel to the ends of the earth, we can help you with that as well.
All right, let's get the address and contact information before we say goodnight.
Absolutely. Our address is 1005 Bending River Road. That's about 10th South and 19th West, just west of Redwood. Our website address is Equipped1. That's EQUIPT, the number 1.com.
Equipped Expedition Outfitters. It's their open house. They're going to be open until 7 o'clock tonight. Tomorrow it's 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Paul, thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
All right, before we say goodnight, Porter, even though we have a lot to do between now and Monday, what do we know about what our listeners can expect on a Monday show?
Yeah, as you mentioned, there's a bunch to get to. College football, RSL, UFC in town, a lot over the weekend. We'll recap it all when we get back. Josh Furlong, our resident AP voter, will stop by on a Monday. Scott Mitchell, former Ute NFL quarterback, will stop by on a Monday. Of course, you will be back in the game week routine with Kyle Whittingham's press conference and a Utah Hockey Club player, not sure exactly which one, but on the day before the first game of the Utah Hockey Club, we'll get a player. I requested the captain, but we'll see exactly who that may be.
And that captain is Cody Keller. That was named Clayton Keller. That actually came down just a couple of hours ago. Clayton Keller, right winger, 20-plus goals a year ago. So the Utah Hockey Club did name their captain earlier today. I forgot to mention that. All right, we'll say goodnight. Special thank you today to Kyle Bonagura, Roxy Bernstein, Paul Pugmire, and Austin Gale. Special thank you to Equipped Expedition Outfitters. It's their open house. Come on down, 1005 Bending River Road, just west of Redwood Road, approximately 10th South, 1900 West, thereabouts. For any of the sound you may miss from the show today, you can head to our website, which is ESPN700sports.com. Make sure to download our mobile app and take us on the go. It's the ESPN 700 app, and that's available for free. App Store or the Google Play Store. And then finally, for what we do in our space every afternoon for 4 hours, check out our podcast page. It is called The Drive with Spence Checketts. That's available wherever you get your shows. Subscribe, rate, review, say nice things, give us all the stars. It helps. For Spencer, my on-site tech, of course, Porter, the producer of the program, my name is Spence Checketts saying goodnight. Have a great weekend. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. We'll talk to you on Monday. And as always, you know where to find it. It's right here on ESPN 700.